Good morning. Welcome. Some of you had snow, some of you did not.
Speaking?
I had several emails this morning from people that had expected snow or they knew it was
They
coming.
give you one every month.
You'd be surprised.
And so we have more visiting virtually than we normally do. So we're going to have a very close, intimate group today. I'm glad you're here. Glad you were able to make it. I was telling a few people that, I'm wearing my questionable fishnets, and then I ripped them this morning when I crossed my legs. So then I have the sleazy look to go along with it. There we are. You can give me some tape. Usually duct tape, yeah.
Real sleeves.
Regular nylons, you just put a little fingernail polish on it, just so you know, for future.
The regular nylons will snag all the way up and down, and that's just going to stay a hole. So that is the benefit of it.
Yeah, that's true. It's not going to move. Except I already made it bigger by doing it twice. I didn't realize. I do need taller boots. Get some of those. All right, thigh highs, right? All right, so quickly first, for those of you in virtual world, Jerry has muted your mics for you. So you should be able to chat in the chat box for those of you that are out there. If you have questions or anything, and Lana will get those out to us. So those of you that are out there, those kind of procedures for today. For those of you that are here, I have watched a few meetings lately from my desk trying to get things done that have happened down here. See these green lights? Those are microphones in the ceiling. I heard all kinds of conversations. One was not very nice about one of the presenters. So, you might want to be nice about what you say about me. I don't hear the gossip. Anyway, so just be really mindful. You seriously do have to almost whisper until we have our conversations, then go for it. But just so you know that those are sensitive. And then that for the mute. Restrooms, for those of you that aren't aware, out here to the left. Take another left where the elevators are, and they're just on the other side of that if you need them. When we get started working and you've got those sleeves rolled up and you're going and you need to stand up and take a break, do that at any point. There are donuts back there that many of you did not take, and there's also a water cooler right in the back, so you can have water and donuts, and sorry, there's no milk. Make sure you take advantage of that. So, again, I'm so glad you're here. Glad many of you were able to make it. Those of you that are out there, sorry if you have snow. I'm glad you didn't come and take risks unnecessarily. For those of you, most of you know me. I think almost all of you are looking familiar to me, but my name is Jeannie Rowland. I work here at State Board. On February 6th, I celebrated 13 years. Didn't think I'd make it to 30, so go figure. My title is changing and my role is narrowing, which I'm really excited about. We're hiring somebody else. Job closed yesterday, so there will be 3 of us on our team. David Smith, who oversees leadership, so their standards, their evaluation, their professional learning, and then we're hiring an educator effectiveness specialist, which was my previous title, and then I am going to now be the teacher recruitment and retention specialist. So I get to work with, so I get to keep mentoring. So all of those things are going to help us bring more teachers into the profession and things that will help us keep our teachers in the profession. So you'll hear different things from me about maybe things that you haven't heard from me about. If you ever have questions, always know that you can reach out and contact me. Email is 99.9% better than a phone call. And you will have, except what I did catch, Jason caught me yesterday. You will have a copy of this PowerPoint. My email's there in case you need it. Sometimes my spelling of my name gets to be a little bit tricky. I'm really excited. I'm super excited about a little bit of a change, a little bit of a shift. And this is going to be a really big piece of my work. going to go ahead and plan to continue with 4 meetings a year. And then if we determine in between that we need more, then we'll put some more in. If we determine that we don't need some of them, we'll take them out. It's dependent on whatever it is that you want. I'll tell you, I have 5 kiddos, ranging from my little guy is 6, and my oldest is 17, senior, graduating this year. And I always want to call her Miss Fisher. My oldest had Michaela, and she was kind of a surrogate mom in a very busy time in my life and traveling around the state training principals and for about 18 months. And so I was really glad that she was right there. From my angel, she did a great job, and I'm not going to get emotional about this. I know we have ACT tests going on today, so I have my 17-year-old is at home, and some of you may have your juniors and others taking the ACTs today. So we're crossing our fingers for all of them, saying good luck. And we do have a special circumstance and visitor today, and I just want to quickly have you about what's happening in your world today.
I'm Megan Langford. I'm the Special Education Mentor Coordinator in Nebo School District, and it's Job Shadow Day, so my niece Emma chose to job shadow me, so she gets to join us today.
So Emma, are you here because you have to find somebody in a job shadow, or does special ed and teaching or anything that sound interesting to you? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Well, it sounded like it sounds fun, of course. And my 2 older sisters both job shadowed her when they did job shadowing.
Oh,
So it's like kind of a tradition type thing.
She's gonna have a sleepover, and we're going out to lunch, so who wouldn't want to do that?
a week and a day and a night, right? That's cool. Well, welcome, Emma. We're glad you're here. Very quickly, we're going to do this at tables. So the only person I'm going to, a couple people I'm going to kind of push to move would be Jen, so that you join one of these groups, yes, and I think you guys. And so when you're in these tables, I'd like you to just quickly go through this just with each other, name, title, and some of us have really long titles, some of us have short titles, most of us have 15 jobs and responsibilities we do. So pick out those that are the most critical for what it is that you do in your work and share that with the group. And then I would like you to think about Utah Snow, and I would like you to describe one thing that you love about it to the group and one thing that you really don't like about Utah Snow, just to kind of get to know each other. So I'm going to give you what it looks like. So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes. So at 9:16, I'll pull us back and get on.
I am Shannon Berry from South Jordan. So go ahead and introduce yourself from Statewide Academy. I'm one of those people that have like instructional coaching. So for this, I'm the instructional coach. So that means I do job responsibilities. I'm the lead mentor, and I do all of that. Plus, I do teachers and our level 2 teachers also make sure they renew and staff also. We had our 100 staff all together. It's a lot of kids. It's been going slow. Because it really works for everybody. Everything so clean.
I started with grandma.
I don't know. I like this. I don't love the cold. I like that in Utah when it snows.
My name is I work for Summit Academy, except for today.
My name's
I got several of them. My title is teaching coordinator.
I work in human resources. Graduate classroom. So I've been in the classroom for 23 years, mostly secondary.
Mentor coordinator of the district.
My primary job responsibilities School
Kind of
specialist.
the older end of the spectrum, so we found a middle school for all the
To recruitment scholarship.
Yeah,
How you doing?
so
good
we
enough
spent
that my phone kept waking me up for this meeting.
All right, virtual people, mute your mics, please. We can hear you.
Okay.
All right.
Don't tell any secrets.
Do have
No pins or
Yeah,
anything.
I have sound.
Clear.
You have
All right.
sound that you can hear, and we can hear you, Jed, so mute your mic, sorry.
charcoal.
Yeah. So how, sorry, what did you?
Megan Langford, the coordinator of the state department, also came from Indiana. This kind of question.
So I've taught for 15 preschool through Indiana and California and then here. So we've been open for 10 years and I've been their responsibilities, but I taught for 7 there. And I've been
Similar, but luckily it's just white powdery snow. It's like
1,000.
in the air, and it's just sparkling.
One more minute?
So I totally know Kathleen Settler. Yeah, that's not Curtis. I know why. Curtis, public school district. I am the district contact. So does she does.
And I said,
Our new teacher. For second grade. Yeah. Right?
Right about 15 more seconds.
Bringing new teachers. We have to remind them. Yeah, that's exciting.
There's obviously all the history with me and Ed.
My program. Yeah. Sometimes I like that very first. Why are we having Jimmy Carrier though?
I know him before he was Jim Jarrell.
Yeah, first week of school. Never do that again today. You were.
I was.
Okay. That's history. It is, and I'm trying to. Does she work for me too?
All right, go ahead and put a period on that sentence.
I don't know. We get
All right, let's talk about the roles that we have in here. Have district charter and higher education. So, how many of you strictly work with mentorship? What do you do full time?
mysterious. I guess so. Whenever Ed was
Great. Let's
they
see.
just be like,
Specialize in elementary.
he brought me a banana. Okay?
Specialize in middle
Middle and secondary.
and high. About middle and high school.
If you were Gordon or
Special ed,
I would probably see a red flag.
RL, APT, all those others.
So
What am I missing? Who else is in here?
I just do everything.
You do everything.
Oh, I didn't want to raise my hand for every single one, because you said specifically, and I'm not specific to anything. But I think most of us probably are like, just do
Your
everything.
hat stacked this tall, right? I forgot to mention the most important person in this room, Lana. Most of you met her at the last meeting. She's my new support person, and I just love her. And she already knows how to read my mind. Massively skilled, and so I feel very, very lucky and blessed to have her. Just get everything ready last night. Go. So anyway, you will see her. You'll see emails from Lana, Lana Kopecky, and you'll also see her copied on some that I send out. How long have you been here, Lana?
October or September, I guess.
Yeah, so about 6 months or so. We also have the 2019 Teacher of the Year, Kelly May, in here. I had the privilege of going through my master's program with her. So, higher ed, I forgot. Higher ed people, just, you're the, all right. Hopefully, maybe somebody will join us later. So, any interesting things you learned about somebody, whether it had to do with snow or what it is that they do?
We know a mutual person. She has Lucy, and I taught her older brothers in preschool years and years ago.
Ah,
It's fantastic. We agree on that. So,
yay! So a student connection,
yeah.
family.
Yep.
Awesome. That's fun. Anything else? All right.
I'll tell. Emma goes to Vista Heights, and I'm taking new teachers to Vista Heights on Friday. So maybe I'll run into Emma.
Yay. Is it?
Alpine School District.
That's right. You moved. Where were you though, Megan?
Nebo.
You always.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Tammy told me that you were here and she wasn't going.
Yes, she apologizes.
I remember that.
Suzanne should be joining us in about an hour.
Awesome. And I know some of you have to leave early, and that's okay. Some people out in virtual world can't hang out for the whole time, and that's okay. Jerry, our wonderful, he's IT, our video, audio superhero, will give us a link in a few days, and we'll post that so that those of you that have to leave early can hear what we finished talking about that you might have missed, and our virtual people and people that weren't here today. So let's move on from there. Oh, I don't like those transitions. I'm going to change that. I am sorry. Those are funky. All right. So the ABCs of the new mentoring rule. We talked about this at the last meeting, and you had feedback, questions, those types of things, and I received clarification on most of those. Your feedback and questions went up the chain, up to the superintendency level, and so there weren't many changes. I can't say specifically what changes there were, but I can tell you a couple things that did not change, and maybe and kind of the reasons behind that. Did I do this? That's what I just thought. I grabbed a set. I'll borrow yours for just a second, and then I think Jason's awesome. He'll share with you. All right. So one of the big, I think the biggest concern or question was in section 3, so titled LEA induction programs, and talking about number 6. A trained mentor educator may not have responsibility to evaluate a new educator for whom the educator acts as a mentor. And I realize that some of you are in unique circumstances with a small LEA, whether you be in a rural area or in our charter schools. Sometimes you have dual roles. And the response I received on that was, we're going to have to get creative to figure that out. The big concern and the understanding from those above us is that it's difficult for a new educator to build a true relationship of trust with somebody that also evaluates. And some of us are really great at juggling both. We have some people that are super great at that, and some that struggle. And so in order to make sure we have all of our new teachers in a comfortable spot and feeling like they can develop that level of trust that they need with their mentors, they're feeling very strongly that we need to keep the two roles separate. So I think possibly one of the discussion topics we could have at our next meeting, we can talk about what does that look like for some of us that need that. I think we'll have some different table talk discussions and have certain topics that you guys can all rotate and talk about things that. So that will be one of them where we talk about how do we creatively solve the issue of mentor versus evaluator, because it has to be that way. That was the biggest one concern I know that came from our discussion last time. Pretty much everything else stayed the same. One thing that can be a bit of a concern, it says effective date at the end is February 7th. Oh wait, no, the beginning is February 7th. Where is it first?
This rule will be effective beginning July 1st, 2020. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, there used to be somewhere, it was in the extra text at the club, kind of in the notes in the Department of Administrative Records that said this is effective February 7th of 2019. That just means that the rule's been approved and is in its final state as it is. That doesn't mean that we're doing anything different right now. We're still working with EYE requirements.
I have a question. Is this going to potentially change relicensure, upgrading, and that kind of stuff? Like what requirements for upgrades are going to be, is that going to change, you think?
Yes, it will change the things that we need. We no longer will have APT and ARL. We have associate and professional. And there are certain things that our new educators need to finish in the associate role or license in order to move to the professional, which is similar to level 1 and level 2. But this is an attempt to level that playing field, so we feel like we're providing quality support regardless of the method at which an educator is. So, for instance, I think I talked about this before just quickly. If we have an educator that has completed the university program, they will have fulfilled all of the steps required in an associate license. When they are recommended for the university, they go immediately to a professional license. Mentoring happens even at the professional level. It's for when a teacher is new to the classroom. So the first 3 years, regardless of the license level. And so it is our university prepared folks that are the only ones that will have all of those under their belts immediately when they start teaching. We also, if you remember, we have the LEA specific license too, so we have 3. Associate, professional, and LEA specific. And remember, LEA is local education agency, which is charters and districts. Every time I say LEA, I'm talking districts and charters, our entire public education. And so this LEA specific has some responsibilities and requirements, and if licensing is something that we want to talk about more specifically in the next meeting, we can put that on there if that's what you want, so we can talk about more of that. But LEA specific still has some basic requirements that they must meet. The caveat is if they work on an LEA specific license, it is approved by their own board and it is only good at that LEA. If they move to another charter, another district, from a charter to a district, from a district to a charter, that license is no longer valid. And so the LEA accepting this teacher may allow them to develop another LEA specific license where they may say in order to work in our charter or our associate to the professional level. So that LEA specific it's used mostly for rare circumstances. I'm thinking specifically, I worked in the charter section here monitoring and oversight at the state office and for 3 years. And we have charters that specialize. So immediately that comes to mind are the performing arts. And they will bring, specialists, those with great life experience, current professional dancers or performers or artists or whatever in to teach one period or one class. And so for that professional to go through the entire licensure process, if they don't intend to get into teaching more fully, it really doesn't make sense necessarily for them to have all of that to get a full license if they're being used rare circumstances like that. So there are places where that LEA specific is very, very helpful to our LEAs. And we're working the best we can here at the board level down to staff and helping to maintain as much quality and consistency as possible. But again, it will be at the LEA and be determined. Those are kind of big pictures of what that looks like for mentoring as far as licensure goes. I'd like to dig into our awful. All right, so we're going to talk about
Jeannie,
yes.
it's Jana from far away. How are you?
Anna from Washington District. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Two things. I think that you're changing the PowerPoint slides, but the one on our screen has stayed frozen on the entry slide, you know, the beginning slide. I can only see the first slide.
So you can't see right now what's transitioning?
No. And secondly,
see what's up here, right?
I can't. I can see it. I can see you and you look fantastic, but I can't. I don't know why. Yeah, no.
All right, so Lana is seeing it on hers, so
And
let's do a
Jeanette
little...
and somebody else says that their slides are changing, but I don't know why mine is. Okay, so it's my issue. I'll fix it. Secondly, can you talk to us about the Praxis 2 PLT? If people are still going to be required to see that?
For right now, yes. Ultimately, what we'll be working toward and what has passed, even passed in law last session, is a pedagogy assessment. And what that is a physical observation of a practicing a new teacher. So they have to pass an observation in person to look at and have assessed their ability to teach, not just knowing their subject. Knowing the subject's important, but also do they know how to work with their specific. For instance, we bring in some of our college level professors, and I know that this was back in 2009, a long time ago, 10 years ago. And we had a university professor come in to teach a current enrollment class in math. And the LEA had to work specifically with that teacher to understand the difference between adult students at a college level versus high school students that are very different animals. And so it's that type of thing that the pedagogy assessment is meant to fix or address. So when that happens, when the whole licensing thing turns over, that's when that pedagogical assessment will happen. Now, they'll be doing that in the universities, and so that's another reason that a new teacher can come out of the university right into a professional license, because they will have fulfilled that requirement. We're working on specific standards. Those are almost measured and look at. One options available is very big on local control, as you know. And so there will be options available for different methods in order to create that, different programs to use. Universities can create them as long as they follow standards, those types of things. Those down and dirty details will is there to be so we can have those. But that will then replace the PLT. Thinking of PLT versus this assessment. Now what? Pedagogical assessment. This is all going to be exhaustive. And those of you that know me, you trust me. For those of you that don't know me yet, you learn to trust me. We will be very flexible, moving your teachers wherever they are in that process if they're so far into the EYE requirements that the PLT makes sense to finish that up and get them moved, we'll work through that. We have APT teachers currently, and we have an LEA. You're going to stop where you are on that and do expectations regardless of where you are. That will be up to the LEA, those types of things. So this is really messy, and you're going to have to be okay with the lack of solid answers right now. And the whole transition thing, I promise we will help you right through all of that and the different circumstances that you will come across. So PLT will be replaced. It is in effect January of 2020 when all of this licensure goes into effect. We know people will be in transition in between, and we'll work through all of those individual pieces as we go. I presume we'll probably have some big piece guidance that might help everybody, and this is the perfect forum also when we get closer to that for us to all talk about, okay, what does that mean for us? What are you doing to move? What are your expectations, your LEA? What are, this and that? And so this will be a really good place for us to have those conversations about other people.
So, you said this goes into effect January 2020. So what you just said, okay, so when we're hiring for this next year, if we have those candidates that are want to come in ARL, APT, just go ahead and have them go through that process with the knowledge that you will switch over come January? Or like, what's the best
recommendation will be is if they're just beginning in the 2021 school year, is that you get them going for the new.
So when they have to send, is there going to be information on the website so that because right now it's just APT and ARL, so there'll be a new category that says associate that they'll turn in all of their paperwork there.
Exactly. As we get closer and closer to that date, we will show you on the website, licensing website will have a lot of support, documentation, and opportunities. There will be modules on there for new teachers in areas such as that will be required to go from an associate to a professional, and LEA I think will be required to offer something for special ed, something for classroom management, and a few of those basic things that we really need to make sure, regardless of where you're coming to us from, you at least have that. So there will be lots of documentation. Plus, Travis Rawlings, who's the coordinator over licensure, he actually just met with the support staff yesterday, that everybody that answers all those phones on licensing, to talk about how they're going to be support to direct you to resources. They won't necessarily answer all of your questions. People that come from all over and get different answers from different places, and so we'll be directing people to the website for guidance, or specifically to me or Travis if your clarification is needed. But our support staff will also be ready to help guide people to where they need to be. But we'll have lots of professional learning for HR directors so that they know what this looks like and what's expected. I'll share everything with you all, and anybody else that's in the field that needs to know, we will make sure we push all of that out. Does that help?
It does, yes, thank you.
Maybe I can ask this. Does it go through the and pass the pedagogy part, the observation? Who does the observations and stuff?
So there will be options with that. The LEA themselves can say, this is the pedagogy test that we've decided, the pedagogy test that we've decided that you're going to take. And so you're going to administer it and administer it. Mute yourselves. I feel like I should be wearing my tinfoil cone hat with all those noises out there. Please mute yourself.
Actually, there's only one person who isn't.
That Janet. Maybe send a little note out there. Yeah, of course you're already doing that. See how many things you do. So the other thing I believe that will be available or that's being discussed is LEAs can take advantage of opportunities for ed. And they might offer that service. There's going to be some type of charge for that, but tell me who it is. Jed. Jed, my friend. Can you please mute your mic? Does. I think so. Every once in a while, I'm going to throw that out there. Jed, if you're eating potato chips, turn off your mic. We can hear you. All right. So there will be multiple options of how LEAs choose to provide that assessment. Jason don't have a solid answer. Higher Ed is heavily involved in developing standards and opportunities for that. That is one of the challenges that go along with this, regardless of how you do this. And this, the state board as an example, and we probably have to do interoperability and those kinds of things to make sure that it's valid. But we will definitely get there, whatever the options will be. All of you. That's another one of those unknowns right now. That's really something. Great question. Thank you.
Jed. Help it's Sandra now.
Sandra Nielsen. I do have Shepard. Oh, Sandra Shepard. Sandy Wasatch. Nope, you're in Scholars Academy now. I need you to mute your mic. You're reverberating. So you will start that with what is currently in law and law, which is most of what's in the ARL are the pieces that are required in the associate to move forward. So we'll figure out a way to make sure they're not duplicating anything they have fulfilled before that. We'll make sure counts for the other and find as many ways that we can do some crosswalks between the two. Okay. We don't want you to duplicate efforts, and we don't want our new teachers to duplicate efforts. So we'll look for ways to blend those things and find like competencies that we're looking for, ultimately, is what it boils down to. Kelly.
Okay, can you just clarify one more time?
Yes.
The 1920 school year and then the 2021 school year.
1920 school year is right now. We're continuing.
No, next.
We're at 18.
Oh, sorry, we're in 18. I'm in 1920. All right. And right now we're continuing as is.
Yes.
The 2020.
Next year.
I believe what will happen is you will follow law and rule as it is now while looking at what the requirements are coming. So that what you're requiring for your ARL and your APT teachers, you'll be looking for them to do things that are also going to count for the associate type things so that we're not.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, that's not what I thought you said earlier. I thought you said for the new people that we hire next year, the 1920, to start them, that there will be information on the website to start the new associate path. That's not what you're saying. They're still going to apply. So I hire somebody, they start in August, they apply for ARL or APT. I need to know, but there will be information on what the requirements for the associates will be so that I can put those requirements into their APT and ARL so that when they need to switch over, it is a smooth switch over.
That is correct. So don't have them do anything in APT and ARL for the first 6 months that isn't going to meet their associate requirements.
Get them started.
But get them started. Absolutely. Don't start out with not certified teachers, unlicensed teachers if all possible.
And then the 2021 school year will be transitioned.
2021 will be full blown. This is, like I said, messy, squishy, and sometimes a little painful, but it's also exciting to see the levels of support that we're going to give our newbies, and that we're going to be having similar expectations across the state.
Are those new requirements already posted?
You can go into board docs where the board meetings have happened and look at the last couple of meetings. It's boarddocs.com, and you can create just a login. There's nothing beyond that that's required. And you can always go in and look at previous meetings. As you look at the headings, it's fairly intuitive to kind of dig through. It's not? Okay. If you need some help, give us a call. But you will see different topics that are addressed. You'll see areas, especially in the last 2 or 3 meetings, where this new licensure has really been discussed. And you can watch the videos if you want. And you can also see the documentation that's been provided, timelines, all those kinds of great stuff. And if you remind me at the end of this, we have time, or for anybody that wants to hang out, we can jump on there and look at that when we're done, for anybody that wants to see board docs.
And then for the graduates from higher ed for 1920, are they?
Don't know how we're working with higher ed yet on that. I know you can't smash in that pedagogical test. And just we might have something developed and in the works before then that you can, get that going on and they can come out ready. But if we're not at that point statewide and, with support and everything, then we'll work. And please know that we are at the USBE as a whole, board, superintendency, leadership, minions, we are all about support. We have a little bit of compliance, but what we do is support you into compliance. So you may not even realize you're being compliant because we're just supporting you where you need to be. So we're all about supporting getting you what you need in order to get things accomplished, taken care of, and really quite flexible.
So as far as the LEA providing the PLT, that's only for our ARL or APT teachers that would come in without already receiving a license from a higher ed. Is that correct?
For
2020, just say in the future. We won't have to worry if a teacher comes to us with a degree from a higher ed institution, an education degree, they will have done everything they need to do.
Possibly, unless they're right at the tail end of this where that overlaps, and it's kind of what we were talking about, is we'll have to figure out, do we just have them do the PLT to get that finished because of where they are and the reason since we're starting February, but we'll definitely have guidance for that as we get. And I will keep you up to date each time as discussions occur and things move forward. So we'll go a question here, and then Lana will grab whoever's online.
What if they're coming to us newly graduated from higher education, but it's out of the state? What did they enter in?
That is such a good question. It is so good that I don't have an answer. So I'm going to write that down. What out-of-state licensures or out-of-state transfer type things are going to look like.
Because the only ones that would be on.
Now, I know that there is work being done, and it may even be solidified already, that there is a process in which there's a little more reciprocity in bringing in teachers from other states that have lessened that requirement or the burden of what is required in that. And so we can look at that as well. I know that I had somebody on my team and she was with me for 6 months. She came from the public school system, absolutely fabulous. She had to go through so many hoops to get her license because she has to have a full license, level 2 here. That and the politics are very different at the state than they are at a district level. A huge district, but it's very different. Between those two things, she left. And so we don't want that to happen. We want to help. And so I know that they've opened that up a little bit. Oh, sorry, Glenda, yes.
Jana indicates a document or infographic with all of this on it would have been super useful for us. Shannon, she indicates, do specific LEAs need to create their own pedagogy assessment if the teachers are LEA specific licensed, or will a pedagogy assessment be provided by the state?
All right. So Janet,
That's Shannon.
Janet was the first one with the infographic. Infographics are lovely, and I am sure that when we have things more solidified, we'll be able to get that so you can see step by step what's going to happen, and this teacher is here, so what are the next steps? This teacher's here. So as we get closer to that, January 2020, we'll definitely lay that out. Thank you for the idea of an infographic. That's a good consideration. Shannon, we're not sure yet for LEA specific on the pedagogy assessment, what that is going to look like, where you're going to get it, how you're going to provide it. That's another one of those nebulous things that are out there that we will definitely work through and get you answers.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, so are we not using the term I anymore? What is the new term?
We are using I. Have always disliked saying I call it EYE. So R277-522 administrative rule that directs the EYE program is still in effect right now. So we're still doing that. We're still doing upgrades from level 1 to level 2, filling out the papers, doing all of that. We are bound by that code and that rule until 2020. But you will see there are many overlaps in what is required currently in EYE with what the new, at least the associate level will be. So those overlaps, it's not a huge difference.
We have Jeanette saying we've been shifting over the term new teacher induction program. Is that okay?
The new rule was mentoring new teachers, and our board felt strongly about putting in the induction program or induction and mentoring, whatever the title of the
Educator induction mentoring.
Educator induction and mentoring. So we're still using induction as the big picture process, the method that we use to bring our new teachers in. Mentoring is a piece of an induction program.
Can I add for the I thing, I do the renewals. And what I'm telling when people have to upgrade, I'm telling them because it's a process. So I'm telling them before they hand it in to make sure they check because things are coming down the tubes. So I'm just telling them to please check with their districts. So we're already telling them there's changes coming. So it's up to the districts what they want to do with that.
And your new teachers and your mentors, key contact is going to be your HR director. That is going to be the person that is ultimately, with your board approval, ultimately going to be the one that is helping guide your new teachers through that. If you happen to be the HR director, welcome to change, and we're going to be helping all of the HR directors through all of this too. But we are really going to be telling, especially our new teachers when they reach out to the state board and say, you need to contact your HR director to find out what their expectations are, what their policies are in place, what their board has approved.
So all districts and charters need to have an induction program. Does that mean that they have to have a new teacher meeting? Have something in place to help the new teachers?
Such a great question. I didn't pay her, I promise. This is going to take us right to the rule right now. So I'm going to go grab a copy of the rule. I think I set it down by the donuts, even though I didn't eat one. So, new rule, induction and mentoring. So, the induction program, mentoring is part of that. We're going to break down what we're looking at it as an induction program. EYE is an induction program. It is the process by which we dunk our new teachers through the process of becoming a successful educator. So EYE isn't, we haven't called it an induction.
I don't hear her.
That's what it is. All right, so what I would like you to do at your table is break down this rule into these three places. Now you can either take notes on the back of your agenda or whatever. If you would like a chart paper, because you know I'm going to have to invest in 3M Post-it note because I use their chart paper so much. You're welcome to chart it or just take notes, but we're going to have the tables just kind of share out anything that you came up with. And we'll do it in a way that if somebody else said it, we won't repeat it. Okay. So I'd like you to look at these 4 ideas in going through the rule. I want you to look at the definition of a mentor. That's quick and dirty, really easy. So finding out kind of some specifics that you're seeing there of what the expectation is that a mentor is. Then looking at, as part of this program, what is the mentor's role? What are the the requirements for them? Mentors have specific requirements. You'll notice they're very similar to what EYE was, if not the same. I think some of it's almost word for word what it was before and what it is currently in EYE. Then the second to the last one is what are the minimums that LEAs must do? What are your requirements as part of this? And then the last thing is, what do you see that the superintendent must do for you? And it says superintendent, but it basically means her staff. Anytime you see superintendent in board rule, it really means the minions out there. She just supports us and gives us all the cheerleading and support we need. She's marvelous. I love her. You can talk about these, pick out the big pieces that you see, and then we'll chat about it as a group. What questions do you have about this? All right, I'm going to check in with you in 7.5 minutes, see where you are, and if you need more time.
I didn't know what it was. Well, it's hard, you know. She was a first year.
Okay.
She's got some background behind her.
Okay, I would love to have somebody volunteer to be a scribe. I have ones that have lines for those of you that are paranoid about not writing straight. Because I'm one of those paranoid people. So I would love to throw those on the ground and then ask somebody. But to describe our big points that we talk about and that you bring out of this.
Even if they come from another state, they still need metric.
I get somebody that will volunteer to grab the marker out of your box and the newest person in the room?
No, the one
The newest person? You're late. You have to write. All right, can I get somebody? It's hard for me to scribe and chat. All right.
And that's what she's due for the year.
Lana will type these up. So handwriting will not be a permanent record anywhere. And if you need to lower that, because I put it too far, it's fine too.
Now what am I writing now?
Just whatever their comments are as we talk through this.
Okay.
All right, so the first thing we'll talk about is a mentor definition.
Okay.
All right, big pieces in the mentor definition. What did you pull out of there that was absolutely critical?
They have to have a professional license.
Professional license, yes, and right now, again, remember, this goes in 2020, so the professional license will be in place at that time.
Anybody coming out of college will have a professional license, so does that mean
Because they'll
the
be in their
first year
first
teacher?
3 years of teaching.
Oh, so it can't be in that first 3 years.
So they,
Okay,
because it didn't, that sentence didn't really make that
the
clear.
sentence there doesn't, but when it says they have to be mentored for the 3 years, they wouldn't then be a mentor for someone else. So it's not stated specifically, and I'm glad you brought that up for that clarification for sure. So some of us were mentors in our first 3 years of teaching, right? Planet.
I just lost one of the comments, but also, what is the definition of trained for a trained mentor educator? Is that the training that will be provided by the superintendent according to 8B?
A trained mentor is defined by some type of training. It's whatever your LEA decides. We are creating a training that you can take full advantage of. That will cost you nothing. And you could just use that. And we'll talk about that part at the end with the tactical sprint. We will have a model training out there that you can use, and it will meet all of the needs, basically, that come down to making sure they have the mentor competencies in line. We'll have something for you. Or many of you have something developed already that you love and is great. Or you could do Frankenstein. You could pull some from what the model and some from what you use, or whatever. Trained is loosely defined. Intentionally.
The only clarification it really gives is that they're trained to advise, coach, consult, and guide the development. And then later it references training specifically in the Utah Effective Educator Standards.
That's right. So your training will need to make sure and include those pieces that are at the end of that. And then later it does come up with the Utah Effective Teaching Standards. Those are critical. All right. How about the next one? What are the key requirements for the mentor themselves?
Trained as to advise.
Professional license.
Be trained.
It's the same.
Have to be
You
trained.
just answered that really.
And that's part of the definition, but it's also a requirement, right? They have to
Don't have to
observe feedback.
So this is the key requirements for mentor role in order to be a mentor.
Yes, in order to be a mentor, yes.
So assist the educator to meet the Utah Effective Educator Standards.
Okay, so the Utah Effective Teaching Standards,
Not be the evaluator.
may not be the evaluator. They may, but then may not.
Question on that.
Yes,
Can the mentor then not serve on an action plan committee to help?
I think that's different. I think they could.
I believe it would depend on the role that they take. The question for those of you that are out there and maybe didn't hear it here, could they participate in corrective action, kind of a plan of improvement? I would say as long as, I would say that this kind of, it's a deduction you can take from this, as long as it's not going to affect their relationship of trust. So they shouldn't be making any decisions to do with their employment, or, they may be, you want to be careful with how much they share, what they share with the people, but if there's harm being done, not that, necessarily physical, but I think that's going to have to be a case by case, and we're just going to have to be very careful that it's going to still maintain that piece of trust, so that as that teacher's trying to improve and get out of that plan of assistance, that they do have someone that they can lean back on and feel like is on their side. It's kind of like a parent advocate when you get accused of abusing. 4 hours of interrogation at the hospital.
I was just going to add that the way we've done that in our district is that we have used mentors, but strictly in the support, education, observation, and feedback role, but they do not collect any data or anything that gets reported back to the administrator. The administrator has to kind of collect their own data and get firsthand knowledge when the individual is working on a plan of assistance.
The thought that comes to the top of my head is a mentor would be the one that helps implement the plan of assistance. That would be decided outside of the mentor's role, but they would help support that teacher through that process.
Going back to they advise, coach, observe, and give feedback. How does that look? What does that look like in an elementary school? As mentors in our district in the elementary school have their own classrooms, how do they?
Oh, we're talking about mentors that are not full-time mentors. They also teach.
Mm-hmm.
Or they even teach full-time and they have to do that. So this is a planning, a scheduling, as part of the induction expectation. So each LEA will need to figure out ways that they could do that. I know that we have some LEAs that do video. And so a new teacher will videotape themselves and then later have a debrief with their mentor so that they can do that outside of classroom time. I know that some LEAs provide a substitute for, 2 hours, or they have an instructional aid and, somebody, they figure out their kids go to the PE and the art specialist, should that actually be available somewhere, and so that would really be creativity and planning on the LEA's part on how they would release that mentor in a way that they can provide that observation.
Well, we do that at our school. We've done it for years. And like you said, we've done where we get a substitute for a full day and then they just transfer from class to class an hour at a time or 30 minutes at a time so that the mentor teacher can go into the classroom. We've also used our principal and assistant principals to go in and read a story to the class while the teacher is gone so that the other teacher can go out. We, in our school, we're a charter school and we have parent volunteers that have a background check so that they can be alone with kids in a classroom. So you could use a parent volunteer during that time as well. Those are some things. And as my job as instructional coach, I can go in and do a lesson with the class as well while teachers get out and if you have that, so.
I've also seen, and another thing that is useful is to have the mentor and the new teachers go observe another teacher together, which still, and then a debrief after and learning that goes along with that is still part of an observation. You wouldn't want to rely completely on that because they need to be observed in their own practice. But it is a fantastic conversation tool. Lana.
From Karen Bedont.
Yes, Carbon.
I realize we cannot violate the trust, but at what point does the mentor have the responsibility to perhaps report to the principal what may be going on that is not appropriate? Once in a while, this does come up.
Yes, it does. Kids are running with scissors in their hands, right? Grinding crayons into the carpet and hiding in the other, that really is going to come down to their local board's decision on determining what those parameters are. And it's not always going to be black and white. There's going to have to be a little bit of give and take, but truly, if you think about it, they're in charge of teaching 220 students or 35 students. You want them in a classroom with students. If a mentor is seeing something which should not be happening in the classroom as it is harmful, physically, educationally, whatever, then they have an expectation that they report things like that. That's a discussion that I believe that your boards will have to decide in kind of a case-by-case consideration.
Thank you, she says.
You are welcome, Karen. I hope you're not snowed in too hard. All right. So what do you have to have in place as an LEA for an induction program? Right now it's called EYE, but what do you have to have in place? Basically, section 3, number 3.
A professional learning plan that's appropriate for the educator. I think
Yeah.
that's key, that's appropriate for the educator, so it may look different for
That's right. So that professional learning plan should be differentiated, basically is what this is saying. We're not doing cookie cutter, right? Every educator is coming to you regardless of what their background is with different needs. Those of you that have, well, everybody has to have an evaluation program regardless of whether you're district or charter. That information and those discussions inform that, and talking about that and what those outcomes are where it is perfect place to set those goals with that new teacher. Anything else that jumps out? I mean, obviously it's all right there, but is there anything that really jumps out that you want to make sure we talk about?
To me, I like that the LEA is a support to that person, and whatever it is they need, we give it to them.
That's right. That's right. Right. That is. And it's, again, it goes to that local control. You're the one working with those teachers. You get to support them in a way that works for them. We try and model that up here in supporting you in the ways that you need. And if you're not getting that, by the way, anywhere, let me know. Well, at least with me.
Jeannie?
Yes.
Hey, what do you think E means? Assistance in meeting the pedagogical requirements described in this other subsection.
That is the pedagogical assessment that is required as part of the associate.
This new pedagogical assessment that's coming our way later.
Correct.
Okay, great.
C goes hand in hand with that.
Yes, C is right with that.
Mentor observation and feedback, beginning early.
Right, but we already do a lot of observation and feedback. So the pedagogical requirement is the thing that's probably going to take the place of the PLT in a year or two.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. They'll take that place.
Thank you.
I believe the more conversations you have, you're going to support them right into where they need to be for that. It's going to look different for everybody. Just provide them with what they need. When I first started the mentoring program, overseeing that in 2011, I asked some questions of higher ups. What's the purpose of EYE? Ultimately, why do we have it? And I wanted to get contextual knowledge. And it was, we support brand new teachers, we give them what they need, and it also is a tool by which we can help counsel some out that shouldn't be there. And that's a low-lying piece. But that's what we're doing here. We are helping these teachers be super successful, and if we find some that are not, this is the time to take care of it. But don't let that be the focus, and don't let that be what you hear from me is the only thing that we're doing. But it does provide you lots of documentation, observation, those types of things. All right. How about the last one? What are we going to give you? Training. Yes. Basically, it all boils down to training. We're going to have a model program for you. Model means it's a suggestion. It's available to you. It will have all the required elements in it. Use what you want. You can develop what you want. You can find them if you want. But it's just like for the districts that are familiar with the evaluation tool, that is a model evaluation tool that districts have the opportunity to adopt as is, to adapt or create their own. Same thing. We'll have a model, not a requirement. The training for mentors that we are required to provide is what you need in order to train them. It may look like it may look like online modules. It's not that we are going to physically go out and train everybody's mentors. It's that we will provide you with what you need in order to train them. If you don't have capacity to develop something yourself, or if you see some things in this sample that you love, or it goes with all of this. Meet the requirements however works best for your LEA. adopt what we have, stick with what you have, or bolster it if it needs to be, or combine it.
I'd like to hear your perspective on the partnership with principals, because it says training for principals to oversee and support mentor training.
Yes.
I'd be interested to hear your take on that partnership and how that.
That is something that was brought up by many administrators as we've worked with them over the last 3 years in different capacities, but they want to be able to support their mentors. Not all of them are sure how. It's similar to a teacher leader role. They love having teacher leaders, but they're not quite sure how to use them. So it is, and again, what it may look like is that LEAs have their administrators go through the same training that their mentors go through, and so that they understand what that looks like. I know that when I first started doing this, we requested that the administrators at the building level, not even at the district or charter leadership level, the building administrators attend the trainings with their teachers as a team. Allowed for great discussion and made sure they had the same vocabulary, that everybody understood the same requirements. And so that's what that is meant for. Again, it will be however each LEA makes sure. They may require them to go through it. They may develop their own just for administrators. Maybe we'll have a strand that we develop for administrators that goes hand in hand, that doesn't take, isn't quite as long. Not sure. That's a really long way of giving you my lawyer answer. I really can't answer that right now.
What might end up being the same module as was provided for the mentor training.
And I would imagine to begin with, due to time and other resources, the administrator piece that we'll provide to begin with will be, we're offering this model program for your mentors, administrators. We recommend you do this with them. But ultimately, it's the LEA's decision on what that looks like. But yes, I do believe we'll come up with a separate administrator, not completely separate, but some, can't think of the word I'm trying to say.
Supplemental.
Supplement, thank you. Supplemental things that they can do and not have to do everything. And then this last one of sharing best practices among LEAs, that's where this group is going to be super critical. We'll be doing this here, and then actually all of the HR directors in the state have their own association that they pay dues and they meet, and they usually invite us to come, or if they have questions. I would imagine we'll be working with those HR directors in your leadership level, whether it be charter or district, to also facilitate what they're doing at that higher level. But we'll definitely be having those conversations here. Any others out there in virtual land?
I made them out there though.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to change this way of working, I promise. I'm just getting over this flu thing. And so I ran upstairs to get my Kleenexes and got way late. I'm not contagious anymore. My doctor assures me. And next to my Kleenexes, I have hand sanitizer. So I promise I'm not going to get you ill. You're going to divide a chart paper into 4 quadrants. And I want you to think about, some of you are in a team all from the same LEA. And so that's great. And this will work as a group. You can talk about it. Some of you may just give input on different pieces on what you're doing. But I want you to think about, and I'll leave this up while you work, strengths that you have already going for you that support this rule. Things that you already have solidified that you're not going to have to worry about. I want you to think about what are some things that you can sustain. So those kind of go together. Things that you do really, really well. Things that you're going to sustain. I'm wondering, I'll be curious to hear from you, are there things you do really well, but maybe you're not going to sustain? Maybe? Like the 3rd grade teacher that won't let go of the dinosaur unit that she's taught for 25 years? I work next door to her. So, I mean, there may be things there. I don't know. I really don't know. If they're super, that doesn't mean if they don't meet these requirements, they have to go. I'm just curious if that comes out of the conversation. What are you going to stop? What can you get rid of? You will hear that in every conversation, or as many as possible, that we have. What do you get rid of? Bless you. Maybe if you don't stop it, maybe you make it optional. Something like that. Because giving you new things all the time. Let's get rid of what you don't use, what you don't need, what isn't meeting your needs. And then snags are kind of another word for barriers. What are some possible snags you see along the way from taking what you have now and moving to the requirements of the new mentoring rule? You're going to get a chart paper. 4 quadrants. You could do it on a little piece of paper first and then go chart paper if you want. You can do it on a little one and just tell everybody whatever works for you. I had one group that said we're doing it electronically. We'll email it to you and, I'll put it up on the board. So whatever works best for you. Talk about these 4 things with your current induction process. Questions? It is 10:31. I'm going to check in with you at 10:48. See how you're doing.
Elevator. But it is checked out, right? I mean, because I'm like, that is different. That's great. Let's see. Yeah, that was one of my snags too. Last month, just last month. The teachers aren't paying attention. There is no. Right, so it is. A willing. Gonna have some. Okay.
Oh, it's the dollars, the funding. Not necessarily the this itself is cheap. Funding to do this. Or people giving feedback. That's support plan.
Ag is going to be that pedagogical requirements. It's not just at PLC.
Oh, that's right.
For a lot of that.
You're listening to the young.
Sir, only 154 IEs.
Right, but I think about it, I wondered how many there were.
154.
They've also been right. So,
Best idea, I thought, yeah. So,
evaluation and certain, it's like a checklist of certain. Saying about facilities.
instructional coaches in the elementary school.
So I think.
But they're going to have, yeah,
So that's clear.
are sustaining our IP. Yeah. That's what mentor training. And that's.
Yeah. I can't remember.
Yes, I get it. You guys have 3.
Stop with stops PLT. Yeah, you're right.
It'd be interesting to see how that all.
It's like
Say this is what you have to
Because we
have.
did the new ones.
That was great. I just get it done.
Our job.
It's like,
Not Lisa Cutler, is it?
With us, yeah.
Nice chart.
Oh.
Okay.
ARL.
They are.
How much is Terry is never. And then I can maybe. Because they're all coming.
Kathy Webb is in charge.
Okay.
Like that.
And she's got a master's in education.
It is a who.
Please call her. Yes, please call her. Great mentor. See if I can get her. Yeah.
That will be part.
It's not just stuff, but it's connections to everybody.
To me, give me a few options at times. Or if you.
Phone number. Mentor volunteers. 2 teachers who are ready to drop out of ARL. It's a small world. Want to speak to her in person, or can she call you? I mean, don't do it. Try to be really helpful if you're believing or not.
Just so she would make sure she got it. Oh, I didn't see
That's really sad.
Such a small world. And a lot of my friends work with Amy.
You're still doing it.
Yeah. Kathy's in charge. I'll definitely let you know. And what is what is your phone number? 801.
So they.
You're welcome. I'm so sorry. That's sad.
So they served.
It's the best way to do it, and I'm sociable.
I think it's next.
I remember we did. It's so much
You're in the clear spot and right away. Got all the answers for it.
Oh, well.
I feel like you have more experience. Like you guys have an established program. I look at
that is our advantage.
I look at ours and I think, oh my gosh, we have so much we need to.
That's what I got.
I think will work well for all of that.
So did you teach them about
So I don't think that was one of the discussion points.
That's what I prototyped.
If I goes away, which
I goes away.
parts of it.
And so your district, I think it's going to have
Jobs. Yes, Steve.
different schools?
The board chair, is he still the board chair? Okay.
their iPortfolio. I don't trust it. Do anything more. So.
That's it. Well, yeah, I think the evaluation systems that way, any district's evaluation system should work.
So whatever it is you have.
See, my friend told me and she feels like that's the most important part is the reflection. Like,
So she's a teacher that just did the same thing.
she feels like that's what's most important school because it's really the discretion of the director. She's not going to ever, I mean, she's already done this for a range. Like when she leaves, the program change.
I think that's also a snack.
She's kind of what drives how she wants it to look. That's the one for me. I use it.
Actually, I don't think she's related.
Something.
Find out.
I was perspective teaching.
And we do use it, it's just, some of those things that they say, well, it's LEA specific, or such a small LEA. It's really should be three people, you know, it's 3 people deep versus, you know, when I hear thousands LEA specific, and I say, well, you guys, it's your board members, like, how many of the teachers must be looking out to Congress to get like approval for anything to change or to do, you know?
So on the one, again, where you're
That's all the same.
it was confusion also. I think some teachers are going to be, but it was good because I understand.
Yeah.
I could understand questions. So, and they wanted to know confusion about the university license and and APT, because we were trying to figure that out. We're supposed to be the ones that know. Yeah. So just put your stuff over here and then she can figure out. And to talk, well, you don't have an HR card.
That was that's what I put my notes, was teachers. So going to the HR meetings, and all of this is being directed through.
I started with teachers.
They have no meeting with parents, and I'm like, well, do I need to be going to that meeting too? Because how much of it?
All the superintendents.
Yeah.
Ready to retire.
I cut on the back here in second grade. Maybe it's in third grade. They're just,
That's absolutely, yeah.
I imagine.
That's really.
The one we just talked about.
Yeah. We get the same information, like the state always give us the same, like I can call, I get one set of information. Assistant, the mentee,
I can see your back from the state. I'm not a good students like work. I'm good. They're not doing they the principal and 15 years and then we move back.
assistant, CONISTENT.
Higher ed for compliance.
The sixth grader, the first grader. The sixth grade. But what did you have to teach you? The question mark there, because I'm not sure.
I need to see what's coming, like I need to see the final final really full screens. Like I was gonna see what I did, that's crazy. Well, thank you, you give me some good ideas. She did this, she did this. I don't want.
Yeah, thanks. I did my student. Are still on track.
Yeah.
Junior high. So she's moving until I went to the district office. So I was in the passion teacher.
They have to, new teachers have to have
that are coming in. I'm special ed.
Just recently.
Yes, yes.
I love it.
It's so weird. The red was the house. It's just kind of been my default.
Yeah, it's like,
I'm actually.
How much more time do you need? 3 minutes? 3 minutes? You're good? You're good? Email it to me if you want me to put it up on the.
Position.
It is the educator effectiveness specialist. It's what my position was. What my position was called. That would be stuff you get. Your leader, that teacher, that person. That's just getting it. I haven't done it. Evaluation.
On the, right, because it's on their website.
Backup for Title II. Concentrate on needs to be leadership and all this support. A teacher perspective of these.
All the activities for every skill.
Mine will be. They need it. We still don't even know.
Casey, who works with us, who's a
Support for that. How much they want. Got intentionally and everything.
Okay.
Talking about how you train HR and stuff, right?
It's super cool there. And it has differentiated on the card. And all they would have to do to start with that.
Do it anytime anyone opens that door. It's like,
Yeah, we have those. And it's right by your couch.
yeah.
So give me something and do you want to share? Like,
Always.
and I'm like, no, that isn't work.
I didn't have anything to stop. Maybe should.
One-to-one mentoring. Do you want licensing? Oh, here's. I have mentor groups.
But I think I want
To everyone.
they're not gonna get out of town.
I don't. It's like right now.
All of data, science,
Privacy course, who has to do that? The teacher?
I require.
Because like I'll have
Isn't that
level
that
two
part of
teachers.
And that's part of the
ARL.
licensure too.
Yeah,
So that makes sense why it's that. Yeah, that's part of the
there's meetings.
Yeah, just stand
And they're all great teachers because they're
level twos, right?
Because I want to
Switch back to what we did before, where the really good
Both of you go through a training. Get a stipend. Where a mentor teacher. They will have your group of.
It actually has a whole thing.
Well, and I think we're kind of, we've changed a little bit because we were at a place where we were level one ARL AP teachers and level twos. So it was, we kind of needed to have two groups.
Okay.
But now we're switching to have more of the level twos. So,
Oh, well, you know.
great time.
So not a lot of years they're missing that collaboration that they had with teachers.
Converted our school and took half the staff with them. Started in charter. So with that, we had to special education and got a lot of. They don't.
Seems like they have more money. They do have a second like comment about until having some charter. I felt so long.
All right, go ahead and finish that last thought. Does anybody want to transfer theirs to a poster paper or anything? You don't have to.
Right.
Would you, those of you that don't want to write on a poster, would you mind sharing your notes when we're done? So I can add them to a paper. Yes, throw them up on the wall, please.
Assessment.
Some people virtually have, at least one has sent me something via email to share. And we've got one from Megan too.
Right.
So, Nicole is absolutely right.
Categories, so they need, but have maybe
They might be like a level 2 to our school and they are all like all in group.
Okay, so 3 of those days are different meetings.
They do, yeah.
And 3 of those days are with the content,
Which I already had
content
for when I was on
specialists.
this school, I didn't.
And so you can talk about content
Well,
specific
how
stuff.
funny,
Questions.
I just felt like lost, kind of.
And the thing, you know.
All right, do I have a group that wants to go first? You don't have to share everything. If there's something that was just really profound for your group or something that you hadn't thought about before. So let's talk about strengths. Anybody that wants to share, what's happening out there that you're just loving or you're doing that's really producing some good results?
Take a teacher to other classes.
Sure, our district is really great at providing those substitutes for new teachers and the mentors so they can get out and see as many good teachers as they can. We hope that also goes in the sustain box.
Yes, it should. It should. It still needs. Yeah, absolutely. And just curious, you may not know, are you aware of how what the funding is that's covering that?
Candy would know.
Okay, we can ask her when she comes back. I'll tell you, again, you'll hear me mention it all the time because another one of the responsibilities I have is Title IIA, which is a federal program under ESSA, and that provides funding for anything that improves the effectiveness of teachers and leaders. So there are, most of your LEAs use it for either professional learning for your LEA as a whole, or they provide it for instructional coaches / mentors. That's what they use the funding for. Also have some that use it for recruitment bonuses if they're trying to get somebody that's highly qualified for something. Also retention bonuses if they have a mega star, highly effective teacher that they want to keep. Bonuses are okay. Those of you that are out in the middle of nowhere, Tooele, we've got West Wendover or whatever, or is that Chintic?
That's Wendover.
That's Wendover. All right. They have the other part of Chintic does. Moving expenses can be paid with that, to get people, even if you're you're nowhere. If you're a big district or a big charter and you're located centrally and you want to bring somebody in from out of state that you love or somebody from another part of the state, they can use Title IIA funds for moving expenses. It's anything that will support teachers. So I have had that bite me in the butt by mentioning it to other groups because then they come back and they say, but my district said this or my charter director said this and I'm not supposed to ask those questions. Transparent funding. Question, push back on authority, raise your hand first and do it nicely. Ask as many questions as you want and get as many answers as you can. Just do it with respect and it'll get you a lot farther. Sugar instead of vinegar, right? Mm-hmm. But you can just find out what it is that they're doing. They may have that money set aside for that and might be using it where somebody has been a squeaky wheel and said, I need money for this. There might be a principal that has said, hey, I need help with this. And they go to the district. The district says, we've had money set aside for that. You just never know. Apply for funding through you? Do you have the applications for that? You have to do it every year. It's not competitive. It's formula based. It is based on their 5-year-old to 17-year-old census data. 80% of the funds are based on poverty level. 20% are on the rest of them. So and this is new as of 2 years ago. So LEAs at the highest poverty level get the most funding. But I'm the one that reviews all the applications and I'm a big bad mean wolf. I am Simon Cowell when it comes to anything like that. So as long as they're following the law, we're good. That's one of the things the educator effectiveness specialist gets out. All right, any other strengths that you want to share that you feel are really great?
Jeannie?
Just good. I think it was something to clarify.
I'm glad that, and those of you that sent you these electronically, I'll pull yours up in just a minute.
Okay.
Don't panic, I will share.
Well, we're doing something cool. I just wanted to talk about it a little bit.
All right, Janet, go for it. I'll pull it up right now.
Well, it's just one of our strengths is we've got all of our coaches together in a room last month, and we developed an instructional playbook, which are all the best practices or the tightest practices, the most effective practices we can think of. And then we outlined them all and put them in checklist form so that every coach in the district could pick up the instructional playbook or open it up on Google and know how to coach these best practices that we've all decided are the best. So we're pretty excited about that.
Thank you, Janice. I have spent quite a bit of time with Washington District in multiple purposes, and part of that has been with hanging on to Jana and following along what it is that she's been doing down there in Washington District. They're very, very thorough in what they do. They have different levels of mentoring. If you're a first-year teacher, you get different support than a second-year teacher, than a third-year teacher. It's very sequential, very timely, and Jana's wonderful with sharing. And so you can use me as your conduit if you want to reach out to her. I could send me an email and let me know that you want her contact info. Jana, I hope you don't mind. And I will send you her email and you can get her contact.
Happy to have anybody, anytime.
So great, sure. I know you are all as well. I'm not out and saying nobody else is good. She's got a high bar up there though. All right, and then Megan sent hers. Is there anything that...
From Mandy Luce, Jana, I would love to reach out to hear your ideas and things you are doing.
Jana, what is your email? And I'll
put it in the chat.
Is she willing to share the playbook? Level,
Jana has 2 N's.
Yeah, I'll put my email in the chat. And normally I would say, yeah, let me send you a copy of that. But here's the beauty of it, is that we didn't write it. My colleagues and I didn't write it. The learning coaches wrote it. And the process they had to go through, led by my coworker here, Robert, it was brilliant. Oh, yes, my brilliant coworker, Robert. He's sitting right here. Robert Prophet. He led us all through this process. And again, like everything in education, we could give people stuff, but it's the process that makes these things really useful. So we're happy to share that process with anybody.
So Jana, what do you think? Talk with Robert. You don't have to give me an answer right now. Maybe we can schedule some time at our April meeting for you to come talk about the process that you used in order to get to this.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Rob, we'll look at our calendars, but I'm certain that Robert and I would love to come up and help if we're free, for sure.
Wonderful. For free, did you say?
Well, not for free, if we're free. I just look. And of course for free, because this is public education.
However, let's say, for example, somebody's in a charter school by themselves, they're the only instructional coach.
Yes.
Would they be willing to share their playbook? Because that person.
Because that's me.
Yeah, that person.
All right, so if we have single people in smaller LEAs, this would be a great place to have time to gather together with mutual small LEAs and go through that process together, right?
Yeah, that's the way to go, because again, our people put this together. They battled it out. You should have heard all of the fantastic civil discussions about what were best practices and why, and then they outlined them step by step, and it's a thing of beauty. We're revising it right now to make it just a little bit tighter. But Robert's led our whole group for this, and it's really going to be useful. Whether you're a brand new learning coach or a years-long learning coach, when you see a teacher with a need, you pull this instructional playbook up, you chat with them about the way it's going to go, and it's clear to them, and now we're just going to sit back, observe, and watch their improvement.
And you all don't have the same people capacity. You may have more, you may have less, that Washington District does. And so just taking something that they've done, as Jen has said, may not work for you, and it may just, you may look at it and go, You have different needs and you're different LEAs. And so really that process, we all know that. You guys are gifted people. You know that the process is where the value comes, as well as the deep understanding of how to implement it. So we'll work on that, Jana. That could be one of our roundtables that we do in the next couple of months.
Sounds good.
All right, sorry, Megan?
Yeah. I would say one of our strengths has been our mentor training programs with both initial coaching basics training and then summer renewals and monthly training. And we started 2 years ago doing a administrator coaching basics as well. So they are trained in the same pedagogy and coaching techniques as our mentors. And that has built a lot of bridges in just sharing common language, and the dialogue between our administrators and our mentors has been a lot more consistent and productive. So that's something we'd like to continue strength.
You know, it's having that, I called it cross-contamination just a minute ago when I was talking with Jana, this other Jana, at Summit. One end, not two ends. But that's one, not cross-pollination, you know, that's one of the really great things. And we're actually, surprise, getting into that up here, you know, having discussions with different sections and, oh, wow, you're doing that? Cool. Oh, you're not aligned with what this is doing? Cool, let's fix that. Those kind of things, so, absolutely. So what I've heard so far from these things that are happening, those would, if you're feeling really good about them and they're powerful, they would probably shift over to the sustain, because what I've heard so far remains supportive of what the current, what the new rule is expecting. All right, so any other sustain pieces that anybody wants to bring up? It may not be rock star worthy of, you know, lights on Broadway, but do you have some practices that you will maintain? I really don't want anybody walking away thinking that they have to create everything new. I'll say this and then I'll shut up and give you some sharing. They're all in different places, but many of us are in the same place. And I'll learn something from someone else. It doesn't have to be earth-shattering. It doesn't have to be life-changing, right?
Continue to provide subs for observations, but building on that, and have observation days monthly where we have exemplar teachers that just know they'll be on those days, and then our coaches and other teachers can just kind of wander in and out wherever they need to, because scheduling is really, really difficult. Of, you know, who and when and all of that, but if we just have them scheduled in, then they'll just be able to go.
So at one point, the legislature had funding available for something that was called PAR, Peer Assisted Review, that was meant specifically to support both new teachers and struggling teachers. Salt Lake District was the only one that applied for those funds. It was $400,000 and they had it for 5 years. They continue to do this program with funding from other places because it was so impactful. I'll tell you the data that I looked at and shared with the legislature. New teachers retention rate 96%. And those that were struggling, I can't remember what the total were that they looked at. Only 2 were moved on to another career, and the others brought their practice. It gives me chills just thinking about it. Brought their practice up to where it needed to be. Can you give us a quick and dirty bullet list of what PAR requires, looks like, process?
Right now, we have 5 PAR coaches, consulting teachers, and
they're retired, right?
No.
Oh,
they're just different. They're secondary, elementary. They're just in different stages of their career, and they are assigned. They each have a caseload of first year, brand new to teaching teachers, and they work with them almost exclusively. There's some second years that they follow up with, and then if they get a referral, which doesn't happen that often, they work with those teachers to help improve their practice. But they are, some teachers need to see them once a week. Some they need to see every other week. Some it just depends. And it's like this little competition between them of not losing any teachers. Like, what does this person need? And they also, it's so great because I sit in on their meetings, and one of them, they'll bring up a scenario that we're going through, and somebody else will say, well, I can help with that, or I can do that. And a lot of times they'll double team people, give them the help that they need. And sometimes it comes through differently from someone else. And they're really, but they are evaluative. And so they can, with the principal, make a recommendation for interview or rehire. So
the new teachers are aware of that.
Yes.
From the beginning, and they're part of the discussion.
And they also have a building mentor, teacher as well that they're really instructional coaches, and they just help them with everything. Plus they help them navigate systems and all that stuff too.
So I haven't followed up at the 5-year point, but they had the project for 4 years funded from, no, they had it 5 years, so I haven't followed up beyond that. That was about 2. They were supplementing it with about another $125,000 found somewhere and dedicated to this because they saw it. Legislature was absolutely floored. Priorities at that time were elsewhere, and they didn't continue it. It was developed as a pilot, and maybe that's something that we can work on in creating, looking at it and creating a model from it or something. That's part of sharing best practices, right? But in the state of Utah, we're at about 53% loss. So that attrition, not retention, at 5 years. 3 years, we're at about 31% attrition. 4% attrition at 3 years. That's powerful stuff. It comes down to priorities, right, at your leadership levels, big time, because it does require funding. It does require time. Lots of things. But we are working with people, especially with the federal programs and the money getting that way. We're saying, please fund your plans, don't plan your funds. So we're saying, look at your needs assessment that you've created. You need to look at 2 or 3 priorities on that needs assessment. And you need to grading those funds you get from the state, funds you get from the federal government, those types of things on where your priorities are. And if retention's an issue for your LEA, hopefully that's somewhere where they're putting more eggs in that basket. It's a process. So we've been we've been planning funds for years and years and years at the LEA level without really any guidance or support. So we're trying to help change that a little bit. But it definitely is a priority. Don't let us scare you with the cost. You're still doing versions of it, with having the substitutes go in and having those conversations. So it sounds like, you know, the playbook, the park, groups that they've got. We've got a few things that we can really talk about and dissect. What are you going to stop doing? Which dinosaurs are you going to put and make extinct first?
PLT praxis preparation course that will become obsolete. There's no need for that.
Perfect. So there's funding that's opened up a little bit even that could be split into something that's more meaningful and productive, right? And if it's not actual dollars, it's time. Anything else that you're going to stop doing that you want to share?
HR decisions. So
Tell us more about that.
functioning in some ways as HR human resources. Bill and Debbie are probably the two in the district that know more about licensing than anybody else. Well, not probably, they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've really fulfilled that role of answering a lot of those questions when it's really not a mentoring role, it's an HR role. But it's because the need has been so significant.
Right.
And so being able to get more out of HR. Yeah.
So maybe redefining roles or solidifying roles, who's in charge of and does part of it and does part of it. That often happens with mentors when they're in your buildings. Their roles aren't really defined. School doesn't understand who they are. Are they the spy? Are they there to find things that are wrong? Or, are they the principal's minion? That's, more define the roles are better. All right. How about some snags? What are some things that you're going to have to overcome and think about?
Overcoming that transition year. What plan is everybody on?
Mm-hmm.
And I also think the other thing is developing that professional growth plan. I don't think that can be up to the mentors or between HR and the mentors.
And hopefully the building administrator.
Yes.
Hopefully we were developing evaluation and talking about that. That was the intent. Building administrator and the teacher, regardless of how many years of experience you had, it's the building administrator having conversations with that teacher and setting up the goals and the plans. And what a great way to bring in the mentor to that conversation and for the mentor to know how to support and all those great things. Absolutely. Yes, that's a culture shift. And can be really hard sometimes.
Because we find oftentimes that some of the administrators don't know. They hire the person and stuff like that, and then where do they go from there? They don't find out till later on, or maybe it's too late or something like that. With
3 years later, they still haven't filled out their out-of-state application? No, they haven't. What? How come I'm just barely hearing this?
Well, see, there's a perfect place for your HR to take over and say, principal, you've got this, right? And a quick experience, when I was getting my admin license, one of the schools where I was doing my internship, thank you, it was the end of the school year. I was a principal I got to know and absolutely adored, found out that our daughters were best friends. It was quite a coincidence. I spent a lot of time on the roof in it was an elementary, and the mascot, selling eggs and all kinds of stuff. It was very interesting. I had 2 days where I ran the building. First day I had a DCFS, referral. You know how those things go. I also picked out people for him to interview and choose to hire for the next year. I'd been there for 3 weeks. I'd never been a building leader before. So he only interviewed the people that I talked to references and I recommended. I could have completely blown it. He might have got stuck with some people that really had nothing to do with what he wanted. So, yeah, we've got to make sure that we are aware of who it is that we're bringing in, for sure. We have a stretch break, 5 minutes. I'm actually going to give you 6, so we'll check in at, we'll start back at 11:25. So donut, drink, bathroom, walk around. I recommend standing up and moving the butt blood. Even those of you out in...
Hey, Jeannie,
Yes.
I'm going to have to run. I've really enjoyed our meeting so far, but I won't be able to, I'll watch the rest of it on video.
Sounds great. Thank you for all of your ideas, and we're going to take advantage of you.
Great. Let me know. I looked at April 20th, and that's Easter weekend. So I'm looking at the wrong thing, maybe. Is that what you said?
I think it's the 29th.
Okay, that makes sense.
Let me look at the agenda. The 29th. Okay, April 29th. April 20th is Hitler's birthday. I'm not going to have a meeting.
Oh, well, I'll be on spring break, on Easter break that weekend anyway. Okay, so the 29th. Yeah, let me know if we can help you. Let's for sure talk. Okay, bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
I don't know where the store is. There used to be.
Mentor meetings every year. The school that we're assigned to every month. Out for the mentors. Helpful note for the new teachers. And it's like just on half a sheet of paper. Stop in and see how they're doing.
I just made her assistant. I didn't get a response. And I'm like, really? Now, come on. So I had her assistant go in and tell her to look at her check. No, it wasn't. She says, I'm here and happy to visit with the mentor. And she gives me a phone number. And she asks, shall I come down? I said, no, the mentor is just in the bathroom. She's meeting. This meeting is scheduled until 1. Are you available after that? Yep, I'm in a webinar at 3, but free to meet. So if you want to go meet with her, or would you rather call?
I don't know. I've got if they are
Okay.
They're building.
So her number is 538.
They said they did it.
7602.
No, that's okay.
I'll tell her that we'll know, let her know whether you'll be free.
I just couldn't believe that's what you said.
Okay, here, so I'll join this thing.
We mostly work with middle because I think it's principal process.
Okay,
If they have
it's all good. If we have an issue, we need to work with this. Because everyone's really good. So it's but I don't see emails. I just hear phone calls.
Don't know what they're asking.
and they don't look the other way. Yeah. Jenny had a really hard time with that. And then eventually, I became his consulting. So I just asked that too. Because I needed to build that relationship.
Even if our phone days.
But it's mostly.
It helps me a great deal. Thank you. Okay, she says, let's schedule time so we don't miss each other. I said, she doesn't have the stuff here and we'll call you. Let's schedule a time. I'll let her know.
Thank you.
There you go.
Over the last. They go over, so we do know the cost.
Yeah.
We can go into model.
Yeah.
Facilitators, we don't have one.
It's gonna be. Right now, they're splitting the building.
You said no.
Next year, they're.
And they are not, it's nice to have our resources.
It is.
It's right there.
Yes, it's right there.
We haven't gotten as far as you guys have.
Oh, I
as far
know.
as our-
Did you feel it? Oh, yeah.
Where's go?
Oh, my gosh. I got from 71 or whatever, all the way to 90.
That's what happens. The principal assigns.
You're a super effective teacher.
Yeah, because. Up my bed. I told you about Rachel.
heard that.
So
We need new teachers.
Thank you, Karen.
After they've been there.
Early, but I'll see you at the next meeting. I'll see you in a while.
See you later.
They have their own mentors. Have a lot. Ours has, yeah. We do one
this for you and then
anything in here.
Yeah, I just had everyone sign in.
that's over there.
We do 3, and we do them both for our elementary.
She wasn't able to come up today.
Back to back,
Ours
different days.
together.
But we do a lot of professional
So it's
development.
not snowing outside yet. So she is over the mentoring for all the general education teachers, and I'm over on special education. Yeah. So.
Cool. Do their mentoring meetings, and we don't hire them to do.
Yeah, we
Right, but it's so
a few
cool.
years didn't have a special ed person.
That's all kind of different.
And
meeting last night and picked up my
special ed mentoring program just kind of floundered, and it just, and so Kevin was trying to put places, but there are enough things that are just different enough. Because we started seeing an increase in hiring ARL and APT special educators, there's just a lot more to teach them that Jenna didn't know how to meet those needs, and so it's been in the shop for 6 years now, so it's good to see her. She's with it. Okay, and I love working with her. She's amazing.
Very helpful for me when I first started. Training, we didn't do PLT. You know, we tried that.
Cool.
So she was really great. It's kind of just wanting her out.
We do 2 nights or not.
Yeah, she's always willing to share.
Because we just done it one.
How long have you been in your position?
My position has changed for this last day.
All right, let's get started. Any of you ever pull one of those stretch Armstrongs and that you got some good teeth in there? My little brother and I, we did that. We had an incredible Hulk and we had stretch Armstrong and we pulled them so hard that we got the goo to come out. It was awesome. They were kind of destructive. I had this guy in high school that I didn't like very much, and he gave me a pound puppy. Remember those back in the 1900s? And my brother fed it a bunch of firecrackers and then lit it. So, I promise he didn't kill any little animals that stalker or serial killer animals. That sounded bad. All right, so we're going to start, and hopefully the others will join us soon. All right, we're going to be talking about some different types of research. You are not going to look at all 3 today, but you are going to choose which one you want to focus on. So I want you to remember that this is the year of you. Notice, don't bring up new teachers a lot and what we're doing for them. This is what we're doing for you. Remember this year, for the last 10 years, no, I had it in mind, last 8 years, we've all constantly focused on your teachers, and that was my bad. So this is about you. So as you do this today and you look at this research, I want you to think about what this means for you. And I'll have some guiding questions for you to think through that will help you think that way. So these articles were produced for adult education is what they call it, but it's basically teaching adults, which is what we do as mentors, is supporting adults. AIR, American Institute of Research, many of you have probably heard of them, a very reputable company and research source. They are a nonprofit. We use a lot of their products here at the state level. So if you ever are interested to see what it is that they're up to and what they're researching, they're always up on the latest and greatest. I believe it's AIR.org, but you'll be able to find it just by looking up AIR. And then this links group is more literacy, but this was developed in partnership with the United States government, with the Department of Ed. And There's a little stipulation at the bottom that says that, and, things that are in here are a report of what happened, and it doesn't necessarily reflect the views of the state, or the Department of Ed, etc. But it's good information. All of them have this same graphic at the beginning, and really, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. You can look at it later. You can look at it today while you're reading if you want. But it really kind of gives a fun graphic of what we do to work through supporting our new teachers. So, we're supporting you. I want you to think about that this way. So there are 3 different articles, and I want to tell you kind of a big picture of what they are so you can decide what you want to spend your time on. Now, first thing first, this leadership guide feels about 5 pounds heavier than the other 2. A lot of that is because there are some tools to look at later on in the article, and so it's not as information dense as it may seem. But the focus on that is for leaders to understand what their role is when it comes to induction and mentoring. And like we talked about with principals, understanding what it is that they need to take part in. It also is about them understanding what that means. So that's going to be what this is about. They say it's meant, I'm not going to say that. We're going to talk about that later. All right. The other one is conditions for success. And this is actually something that I usually keep at the top of my whiteboard in my office is how am I creating conditions for success in or for? I always want to think about what is it that I'm doing to help you to create conditions where you can be successful in what it is that you're doing. And so I thought it was kind of ironic that this would have that one particularly as a topic. But this one is talking kind of in context of the school staff and building capacity, making sure that the right people are doing the right work. And then the last one, the teacher induction and mentoring, that one's talking more about what it is that mentors do to support new teachers beyond where's the coffee machine, what time is recess, do I have bus duty, how many prep periods do I get, those types of things. And so it digs more into the actual mentoring piece. So, you're going to do another chart, and you're going to love it. With this chart in the middle, you're going to write the title of the article that you chose to look at. Now, you are going to disperse and work with different people and talk about this with different people based on the article you choose. Okay, your choice on what you look at. Like my 3 Twila people, I would really love to see them talk about, and so they, all the people that are talking about leadership will be here, and the conditions for success, and the mentor and new teacher are going to be working together and looking through this and having this conversation. So, on a graph paper or chart paper, do the title and then a quick graphic representation. I do this a lot with you, and the reason for that is many of us are visual learners, and we'll go back to that picture to remember what the conversation was, or remember what the learning is that we had. And so it doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be as elaborate as you want, as long as you don't spend too much time on it. But just kind of some physical representation of what that article is about. You are looking at conditions for success at teacher induction. After you've looked through that and pick out and pull apart that, how would you represent that graphically? I'm the worst artist in the world, so this does not need to be beautiful. It's not arts, whatever. And then the surrounding area on your chart, that's what surrounding area is. I have 3 of these questions that are bolded because those are the ones I really want to make sure that you think about. The others are would be really great for you to discuss. Who is the best audience for this particular article? If you were going to share this with someone, whichever one you choose to look at, Who would be the best audience? Would it be another mentor? Would it be your supervisor? Would it be your HR director? Would it be coaches? Whatever it is that you have available to you. So I want you to think about who would benefit from this information that you learned. Not that you have to get that article, anything about it would be really great. If you told them about it, if you think it pertains. That's on you. What support can you pull out of this for mentors? If you're not an actual mentor, if you oversee mentors, I want you to put on your mentor hat as if you are the mentor. What in that article is in there that will support your work? What information can you pull out of there? Oh, look, this is a really good, research says, or their experience was that this works. Hey, this is what we do, or, oh, we kind of do it differently. So, I could use some support that would be great for me, would be whatever. The other one I have highlighted is how can we network? And I'm talking we, me, all of us. It's called that gradual release model type thing. We will have these meetings all the time. I will always provide the groundwork and the time for it. I want you working with each other a heck of a lot more than me leading the discussions. So that may mean that a couple of you lead the next meeting for like our roundtable discussions that I was talking about, different topics, and you'll teach each other. So how can you help each other? How can we help each other in order to support us by using the information that's in there? What did you learn in there that you could really help each other learn? And this is something that I've talked with people up the chain. As I said, 154 LEAs need a wonderful Lana. And first of all, I still am a talking head much more than I want to be. But I can't sustain it for everybody, and I want you all to start taking ownership of it and with each other. And like I said, I'll always be here to provide the resources for you. But I'd like to start seeing you guys get some ownership there. So there's that. It'd be great. What are critical concepts? What did you see in there that are really big ahas for you, or something that we've talked about that, yeah, this tells us this is exactly what we've been saying that we're going to do. This is exactly what our LEA does. Or, wow, I never thought about something this way. Is there anything in there that you would implement right away? Are there ideas that you could use, or is it more informational? And then anything else that you pulled out of it? Do you disagree with something that's in there? Back on it? Do you have some questions, or you'd like to hear somebody else's ideas? So anything else that you want to discuss? These three are your critical. And the other three are if you have time and if you so desire. So going back, and I'll put those questions back up while you're working. Going back to this, what is the leader's role? Because we know that they are the second most important influence in our students' school lives to teachers. All the research says that, all of it. What about leadership? What about our staffs and our teams, and what do we need to do there? And then what are ways that we as mentors can help more instructionally in that type? So I'm going to give you about 1 minute and 37 seconds to think about which one you think you want to explore more than the other. And if you have more than one of you from the same LEA, I would really encourage you to do something different, because I know we're in that place in a couple areas.
I'll take whatever you
You have 28 seconds left.
Why it still works.
Vintage. Love it. The ugliest thing ever, and everybody can. Okay, so if you are interested in talking about leadership, let's have you come to this table, and there's fresh chocolate that hasn't been touched, all right? If you are interested in conditions for success, let's have you come here, and if we end up needing more room in one of them, we'll do more room. Conditions for success. And then talking about, let's go up here in this front area, so we can rotate a little bit. This will be the mentoring for the new teachers. Take your article over, or articles, however you want to do it. You don't have to permanently move, just gather what you need. Leadership, conditions for success, teacher induction and mentoring. Chocolate was paid for by personal funds. There were no USDA funds or federal funds used to provide. I'll clarify. We can pull another table over, or come on over, Emma. I'm on good.
Feeling very behind.
Right. All right, so you don't need to read this entire thing word for word. Pull through it, pull big picture, skim, whatever it is that you need to do. It is now 12:41, or 11:41. Let's check in at 12:08 and see where you are.
See what they have.
Well, years ago, there was a thing called the CNAP. I don't know what CNAP stands for. Kind of like that, where different teachers having a problem with classroom management. Okay, well, this section is resources that can help guide parents. Yeah, and that doesn't exist. And I have a partial copy. I don't have everything, and oh yeah, it would be good to have this. At least look at it, and then I can morph it to what will work for me. But I have no idea part.
Or just sitting some documents.
The boss is going through that. Okay, that's fine and dandy, but that's me. Like,
There's a woman that is totally.
It's very different. Yeah.
You use them, sir. District for observations and stuff like that.
Reading this for her director.
There's that flows up. It has like a drop in. It has expectations. It has a variety of.
He is at Logan's.
I was just looking at that a second ago. So you can develop. Then it has an explanation what each thing looks like.
Send me something.
So you can develop.
Snap had that. September, you're gonna look for classroom management. October, you're doing organization. Like, it laid it all out, and it was nice, but had to recreate it, which I don't want to do. Got to the other. Yeah. Yeah, because I could see this process taking a year. I don't have time.
It's like you teach your whole reason. So they can get it's quicker.
Yeah.
Instead of doing it by themselves. That's why. So we're supposed to
Yeah,
do that.
who is the audience? What are the recommended mentors? This little section.
So this really, back here, all of these tables and things. Like this, after this graphic, there's different checklists that kinds of guides of what to do with. Cool guidance.
Overall mentor role.
Yeah, because they're doing things together like back, I don't know. Gives like articles for them both to read. Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
is really a plan. Mentees.
Yeah. They have time to practice it before they have that observation. One's 3 to 9, apply the skills. Oh, not as a reflection. Plan for future professional development. Can do that part.
We have a building mentor as well.
So you could do this.
Yes, it's
New teachers does that mentor have?
Just like your
An idea. Are those building mentors also teachers? How's your teachers in the building? That's what we used to do.
You were great visual.
And we've been open for 10 years. And the first 5 years, that's what we did. We had our mentor teachers that had their people that they were over, right? Worked really well. And I directed that to campus. Turned into a lot of ARL, APT level ones. And so we're just now at the point where we have more.
Very well. I always have my students strong.
So what I've been doing is I'll have all of my level 2 teachers have become the mentor teachers. And they will have 3 or 4 people that they. So it's just a lot of discussion. Like I facilitate a lot of discussions with them.
That's all right. It's okay.
It is.
just superficial.
Yeah, well, we do, like I always give them a topic on the topic of teaching standards, but they don't watch each other and really, it's more of a group discussion, not a one-on-one, like, okay, what can I really help you with? I need to organize that next year, but I'd like to be able to give those teachers a stipend, so I'll have to talk to the board about that.
Yeah.
Unless the amounts of money that we have pouring out of our ears, you know.
Are you an elementary based?
Yeah. Sucks, because I'm secondary and I don't think that way.
That was probably the hardest.
To kindergarten.
never move it quick enough.
Leadership guide.
Nice to just sum up 10 missions that you can kind of just focus on.
Strong. So that's my graphic.
That's what you got.
All right. We'll make these little thought bubbles. So, okay, best audience.
Actually, we have instructional coaches. We have an academy team that has building mentors. Share with her too. Yeah.
I didn't need to. My type personality.
It's principals, administration, or adult science.
I shouldn't. Person who volunteers because I
Yeah,
couldn't do that.
That's a little pointy thing sometimes.
Take all that.
Two ends.
Well, and trying to do this from a district level because we.
I forgot what I had.
However, I'm sure that within each school, there are schools that also.
We talked about the induction process. That's gotta be the plan.
Teacher and
Okay.
pathway, right? It's a semester.
That's a hard one to write.
We talked about for us.
Okay, are we making very?
What do you use as your evidence?
Intentional matches with teachers and mentors.
Somebody that you
Then the others in between. I thought it was hard to look here. It's all right.
I think it's perfect.
Well, teachers, sorry.
Okay.
There you go.
Article type.
I mean, those are two of the biggest things. Oh, thanks.
Providing that organization, we already said that.
Yeah.
Providing an organization.
So, graphic, and also talked about time, providing time.
She said at one point that the induction program, mentoring is under the induction program. So I can run umbrella, but I don't know if that's all that great.
The instructional coaches are not
You have the induction program, then mentoring is one of them, but that would be
We like to string.
other pieces, you know what I mean? Because you can't just draw an umbrella unless you've got
That'd be interesting.
the one little spoke, you can't
I don't know.
hold it all up.
So it was a suggestion that Renee under that, you know, that because she's what they're doing together.
So what are the critical concepts?
So that's just one idea. You don't have to go with like do all the bold in the black and then do the others in the purple.
Oh, it's three.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how can we network to support each other?
Fingers are great. Is that us? Because I was thinking too, like if we're providing time for, providing time for the new teacher and the mentor. To meet, if we provide time for all of the mentors to meet too. Like just as mentors. Well, because that's training. We need to.
No, so we're the opposite. Yeah, we're the opposite. We're very well rounded.
I see it as being twofold.
Is that what I do? The surrounding area.
Oh, yeah, okay. I mean, I saw mentors being a part of the audience, but I also saw new teachers.
Yeah, I saw both.
I actually helped assign the mentors because I think that has,
It does.
but you really have to think about
Yeah.
how they're paired rather than just random people.
Yeah, that's true. That's good guidance. I mean,
Cedar Valley for you.
admin. I'm in the process, in February, I take new teachers out to visit other teachers, so. Okay. Our supervisor. Okay.
Cedar Valley is way,
I don't know, I would just probably.
Go into Frontier.
We could do this.
So that would probably be admin, yeah, because you've got LEA admin, building admin, that's how I.
Pretty much. So, yeah, well, and I think if I did that, then
What are the recommended?
some answers, sometimes guidance, I don't know that I do. Yeah, that's what I'm.
Then make it your own, that's what we.
Right, yeah.
It's still these. Yeah. I just wanted to read that again for me to make sure I heard.
Yeah.
To be right, which I felt was very important, since I realized that we don't use the,
That words support each other.
well, and when I read the use of data and evidence. Yeah, skill and knowledge.
We'd establish it.
Right.
That's this one. Tell us what your list is.
Or we can just go ahead and post it.
Stuff that it talked about that you have experience.
Share, just the sharing.
Their strengths, their weaknesses, or snacks, or,
Use best practices, be able to reflect, be able to give feedback.
It's got to.
Have a lot of learning.
Yeah.
to figure out how that's gonna look for us.
I'll
So,
send it to everything.
So
Especially the share.
Okay, that's one of the other ones. What are the critical concepts?
let's just do that.
Well, I think
The time,
writing a plan.
they need to be given time to
Time and when to evaluate
Right.
conversations that they have that are training.
So what's the difference between these two? What are the recommended supports for mentors, help network?
You really like it.
I feel like this comes from.
That's what you said from that.
So, what's recommended?
You take it just automatically. Use
Right.
It's going to be our own experience after.
Yeah.
the idea of how to.
Yeah. I'm,
And I thought, and I did that, how can we support each other
I think one of the ideas.
like what we do here
I thought that was
in
this.
this meeting?
I thought that was.
So we can network
And I feel like
between
if somebody goes to a
different
conference,
LEAs.
if one of us in this group goes.
Right.
Bring back and share.
Exactly. That's what I thought networking.
Okay, so maybe we don't need to put that on here. That last one, do we not need to put that on here? I'm thinking
There are buildings that we work with.
she wants us to have them all in there, okay.
One of those first three.
Just the first three.
The first.
one.
She wanted the bolded ones for us to do first and then add the other stuff.
Oh, yeah. So what am I putting on this one? I'll start writing that first.
Really critical. Be able to do that.
Kind of your list is a good start.
Yeah.
We run out of ideas.
structure for the mentors. That's the first thing. Hard to, it's hard to know where your voice is. It's hard to know where my voice is here. What and how team doesn't always have a voice. They're gonna, members have to know what the what and how are before they can share those with each other.
And I can't, that's not,
They meet,
right
they're
away.
trained.
This is a lead, it's a leader.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Right. And I think
But I
we can
think
do
the first
time is
thing-
different. Not different, it's
Be
just
successful is
You
matching.
like what? Yeah.
it's human resource.
And a lot of times you get matched with who's on your team.
If there's anything,
New school or charter school, you may have all these new teachers and very few. It's like qualified.
It's true.
So that's why I think you.
So do I like to.
teachers, but not,
That's tricky.
but I'm gonna revamp it. So, but I can't do that right away off the top of this year.
Just give them that role.
Yes.
So this is you.
Look like.
And how they think.
I guess we're instructional leaders that are given this role now.
I'm not sure really.
It allows professional continuously learn and improve their
Second category of
Like, we're
some
not,
schools that don't have anybody.
school and reduce feelings of isolation.
Mentoring. And in some charters you have people like the gal who's sitting by me who's in a charter school in Orem. She's the mentor for all of her teachers. It's a K-6 school. Even though she may not have them mentoring teachers yet,
so developing it.
it's a stretch for them to be asking their experienced teachers to be doing this. Additional responsibilities, so she's the one who's been doing it. But clearly in here it says it should be someone who's consistent in their responsibilities so they can collaborate on. So I comes back to the human resource. Gotta know.
I was part of the English team.
Upon people. But I don't know really where to put that. I just kind of spitball in here.
be special ed. I come from a Brandon district, so I have a large district, but we still struggle finding mentors that are willing to.
You're right.
And it's just struggling.
So that first part where they were really stressing. It's not really a choice option.
That's true. That is
So-
true.
I struggle with that.
I mean, it's an ideal idea.
Ideally,
very
this is
ideal,
perfect,
yeah.
but
I still want you to come, because it was just a part of us, even though it doesn't hold like you or something, or
But
maybe,
not
you know,
necessarily.
you'll have some insight somewhere.
why do you do it that way? How about friendly mentoring?
I'm this little island over here, just not.
And like you're a science teacher, the science teacher next door.
Right.
That first year, it's a level. That's what we're gonna have themselves.
So the reflection.
Let's see if we can throw some things in there.
On
this one, or just what do you have? Yeah.
I'm gonna
I
go.
can I have one.
What can I do for you?
What are the critical concepts? What can I share?
Management, instructional practice and assessments, I think. Am I right?
What we find is
So too. Well, why don't we do that? What you saw spoke there, since you.
Managers, learners. A lot there.
Okay, so that's, okay.
It's your development as a teacher yourself, your whole class.
Oh, yes.
And a lot of times, and I'm do the elementary part, and a lot of times it's who's on the team that has gone through mentor training.
And they may not be
Which is
the
that,
best.
so then
Not have the right personality to do it.
Some of our most experienced teachers are
the worst.
And you guys do that.
So do charters, like,
They don't have to do it, but they don't know how to teach it. They don't know how to.
Or they're, that's good. Or they're so.
We take her back every time.
do charters ever collaborate with other charters?
It's hard.
One time ago.
So long as
I do love the
has a 10 mentor doesn't mean they should.
So your days are spent basically classrooms, observing districts.
Oh, are they?
office. So good on the mid.
When you went to Granite Sisters. Years ago.
We have 3 meetings a year where we train our mentors.
And then her
Is by her learning teachers. They're not all new, but they're all somewhere in that process. So, and I'm the only mentor. And I'm also the mentor. And I also do all of the testing for,
and then I could be more reflective.
testing out of math classes or
So would that be under structure to be successful? Is this successful as the mentor with your mentee?
Yeah.
So yeah.
To me, it looks like.
Oh, and I think training is good. I think time can go under
Is
there.
good.
Share all those responsibilities because you can't do it all on your own.
And that talked about watching or videotaping each other.
So they need to outward, whatever you're doing.
And we're all, I mean, I'm not the only one that can all stretch
Mentors can just
like our assessment director
have that
also
system
in
in
charge of
place.
IT, and she teaches 3 classes. And she's the director, and she's over the library. We're all kind of,
It's just
yeah, you can't do anything. I can't do anything really well.
That's good. And the mentor needs to know
right.
not to overwhelm.
It's a new school, you said.
No, we've been around for 10 years, but
So do we want to put that in, because that also goes with.
that was 5 years ago.
To this, but we are formally.
Do we have communication?
And so we were without a director until 2 weeks ago.
Oh, well.
And
Build relationships.
yes,
Wait left to move to ascent.
relationship building.
What's the name of it again?
My school's Early Light Academy in Daybreak. So I was just saying that when Wade left, he took working with students, so we've been rebuilding. I've had the majority of the staff. So I rearranged the mentor groups so that we could facilitate all that, and now we're finally at a position where
This is, they've been through the training.
our level 2s were people that now were ARL
Sometimes
level and will be upgraded this year. We're in a really good position for that. It's just about me kind of rethink how I
Everything on your list.
would be.
She's also on my district.
I already know that, because I'm gonna be at her school on Friday, so. You are not gonna be together. I drive past her school every day.
that is a huge piece of it. Because as a coach, when I go in there to talk to my, depending on what teacher I'm coaching,
We had a leadership team meeting.
I've got to really want to learn from that teacher, right? And the mentor has
I
to.
don't know if I want to drive up to Frontier anymore, so I'm scrambling to find it after 2 weeks to go back up to here.
That's where the gaps.
Billing too.
Oh,
whether it's worth it. So that they don't fear, it's like trying to also take them from.
Oh my gosh, I had to learn that part.
Let me tell you, it's push back.
No.
It's definition of downside.
Oh, is that there? Is that?
Nobody does.
No.
Could have, but
Different
different.
Six Sisters, so. Isn't there?
It's
some
kind of
very
very
strange.
We come out on Sunday and there's like, jump in there.
Okay.
Debbie, my, they don't do it. Always do it. She has.
So I have you have tried to do different grade levels. Yeah, you've done the handwriting. They are still
You've got the same thing I've got going on. You're not blinded.
There's a mic that I smear all the time.
I know.
Friday.
I'll be coming from here. Okay, this is right there.
How much things are taken away? And so much that that person's not growing.
Thank you.
Other teachers.
takes longer.
That is so good too. So that's also exciting.
What's for tears? Where, because I got
I'm not Right.
At UU, for a number of years, and all of our department meetings were always about teaching. Because I was the only one in there in my department who had school knowledge, experience, and education, and all these PhDs are sitting there. And I'm like, I don't know these things. In my very first department meeting, I'm like, is this for real? Doesn't it like education?
He's on my course, he's on my
But if they don't.
Yeah, I do. And then I was gonna go to.
Yes.
What's your
Portuguese?
Because I'm a social studies
Or German.
So then I was gonna go to Susan. I'm still studying.
German do it too.
But she's LA.
The Chinese teachers say the same thing, and that does not happen to the teacher.
I know.
But I tried to get Godfrey and she.
Don't have to be here sometime of the year, but we have one teacher who I'm pretty sure is going to be.
why do you get documentation?
That's why it's really struggling. In the DLI are non-natives. There are return missionaries who speak the language, who've gone through a language program somewhere, who are American, so they can be very away, but they go. But we've had some. I can't believe that.
All right, let's go ahead and get those posted so we can talk about it. Choose a recorder. Whoever wrote doesn't report. Anywhere you would like to.
Right, so.
Yeah, that's true. I know.
Anything? Okay.
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah, it's true.
I like this. Choose a recorder, and I always protect the recorder that if they don't want to record, so that they can say.
What are theirs?
All right, so go ahead and finish that last sentence, and then you all should have a recorder ready. All right, go ahead and go back to your seats so that you can take notes on the other articles. Some of the things that you hear.
That, well, yeah, it's conversation between that teacher and another teacher.
But I will.
I don't want to be. Thank you. Just, these are the things you promised to do. Yeah.
Your seats and having all three of your articles in front of you so you can take any notes that you'd like.
You know, I have for many years.
So, for this next piece, I'm going to sit over there because I'm not your audience. I don't want you looking at me unless there's something that you have put on there and said, we need this from Eugene. I'm going to sit over there and listen. You're talking to each other. You can mention that. If I'm the audience and I got something to do, then you can let me know that, but the rest of it you have to talk to your group. Okay? Do I have a group that wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Wonderful. And you are which group?
We are this leadership guide for teacher induction.
Awesome. If you guys want to take notes on your reports or whatever, go for it.
Okay, so the way that this is organized is our title's in the middle. The three bolded things are in the black, and then our afterthoughts were in the pink. So, right here.
Our audience is the building mentors, administration, and instructional leaders, just the people that are kind of heading up the mentor program. Our recommended supports, we really like that it had this teacher induction master plan, which is kind of like what they were talking about with the playbook. It's nice to have that. This is what you do in the first month, the second month, the third month. And then there is a picture, there's a graphic in that packet that has that laid out, and then it goes into more specifics about what happens in each one of those. It's kind of far back, maybe page 20-ish, I can't remember. So that I really liked that. That was helpful. Recommend support. Oh, they talked about having matching teachers, seasoned teachers with new teachers very intentionally. And then we need to provide time and resources for those teachers to get together and talk about the practices that are happening. Network for support that we need is to recognize each other's needs when we come together and meet, like we've done today a little bit, and we thought it would be kind of fun to establish some kind of online sharing space that we could all be involved in, so that when we have questions or ideas or cool things happening, we could put it out there to just keep us connected, since we only meet 4 times a year. And then our afterthoughts here. The instructional leader has to be involved in this mentor process. Something that I want to do, because I don't have this right now, is to start, or if you have it, to continue to develop a teacher induction master plan. And we want to provide it kind of goes along with this, a well-established plan, or like the playbook that they talked about. It was just some guidance. I feel like our teachers that are the mentors really need more guidance, lots of guidance. So,
do you have any questions for this group? Clarifications? All right, thank you. We had a question online about, can we zoom in on the posters? We cannot, but these will all be typed up and put in the notes that will be posted.
Way to hold it up to the camera.
Maybe we should do that for the next two.
Insert them into the.
Yeah.
All right, who would like to go next?
I'll go.
Thank you.
All right, we had conditions for success in teacher induction. And so there's our name on our raindrops. And we also did an umbrella like that team over there. Oh, and we have a cloud. We can say that's a cloud with raindrops.
Yeah.
Not working. All right.
So the best audience, we felt this would be a district and school leadership teams, building mentors and or instructional coaches. So this was really geared for those schools that already have a teacher induction in place. This was a super great article. It had 10 conditions for success. And so we just put the 10 conditions. You guys all have the article. You're just going to have to look at them. At our table, we had multiple. We have Alpine, which is like the largest district in the state. We had 2 charters, and Nebo, which is kind of a middle size. And so we had all different sizes with different needs as far as teacher induction type programs. And so when we're talking about how we can collaborate, again, like the other team that you stated, here is a really great time. Having these roundtable discussions is so valuable, and we can learn so much from each other. We didn't really come up with a good way to maybe network when we're not here to kind of share ideas. And I just know that the collaboration piece is so valuable in how we can share share and learn from each other.
I think that's it. Recommended for support for mentors. This was a really good, I loved this article. The conditions were really great. One thing we noticed, as we read through the 10 conditions, that we could say, oh yeah, it's almost like a checklist. We're doing okay here on the data piece. I know in our district, that's probably more of a weakness for us and something that I can put more focus in as I work with my team. And so I thought it was really great to kind of see where we are and what pieces maybe we need to add to our programs. So helping support those teachers.
Questions do you have for this group?
Most of us were in my group, so I haven't
had a large group.
I think it goes back to the collaboration part. I think because as soon as I read the part about data, I went back to what you guys shared about how you created your data in your program. And that's that piece of making sure we have the tools that other people have created in a good location for everybody to access them. But that's exactly what I thought. It was like, I remember back to the last time you guys presented on your data technique, and I was like, oh, that would be great if for each other that way.
Thank you. Hey, Jana, you're up. Jana with one N.
One N. Okay, ours is Teacher Induction and Mentoring Brief. It has a lot of the things that have already been discussed. We use the umbrella, so we're all about precipitation, I guess. Snowing, raining, whatever. Of the things that we highlighted, first of all, the audience, really, it speaks to everyone. It speaks to LEA administration, building administration, middle management administration, like whoever our supervisors are. Speaks to mentors, talking specifically about the different things that they need thinking about as they're mentoring. But it also talks to new educators. So if you were a new teacher coming in and you wanted to know a little bit about how you would be supported, this would be a great article to know what types of things you would be looking for so you could advocate for yourself.
And the why.
Yes, and why we need that type of support. Thank you. So one of the recommended supports for the mentors, obviously, over all of it, needs to be the structure for success. And inside of that structure needs to be built, of course, effective training for the mentor, time to mentor, technology, the three are, so that we can communicate back and forth, so we can be aware of the different technologies out there to support the teachers in whatever they're doing instructionally. The ability to see reflection as a powerful piece for that new teacher, and the mentor also needs to be able to reflect. The ability to provide feedback, back and forth feedback. The mentor needs to have strong communication skills, the ability to see best practice and utilize them, instructional best practice, and everything along the line of what best practices are. The mentor needs to know how to build relationships, needs to have the experience in the classroom so that she's got that validity, that credibility, and also an awareness that they are not perfect, that they're not being a mentor because they're a perfect teacher. We're there as a resource for each other. So that was the recommended support for mentors. The networking piece here, the how can we network to support each other. We love these meetings because they are an organic, natural place for us to be sharing the ideas that we are having in our own practice. And then if someone goes to a conference or gains more professional development, we need to have a way to share that and disseminate that information, because we're kind of our own little islands in each place that we work. So those are the three key points. Some of the other things that we talked about were the critical concepts here is that student learning is directly linked to teacher effectiveness. Everything in this article talked about becoming effective educators and how we move that information out there to the new teacher so that they can continue that process. And then the last piece that we felt was really important is the mentor needs to feel the love of learning in their own life, and they need to constantly be seeking learning, and they need to be able to catch the fire for the newbies as well. And of course, if our admin have that level of learning, and we're all going to share in the love. So,
Questions you have? Thank you. Notes, plus I'll have these. So in previous meetings, you have mentioned something online. And that hasn't been a priority for me. I'd like to move it now that I get to have someone else helping with some of my other duties and I get focused. I'd like to get something online available to you to be using with each other. I thought originally, I mean, just off the top of my head, you tell me what you think. My thought is I could get it started, get the structure set up, or, the place that it's going to be, and, what technology will be used, something that's universal, and then have a couple of you kind of take over, maybe once in a while, pushing a question out, if you have one, or throwing out an article. I tried to do that for a while about 3 years ago, and it didn't really have much response, and then I just didn't do any more after that. Instead of pushing it more, I should have done that. So I wouldn't be able to keep maintaining that and getting that out there. I'm just wondering if I put something out like that, is it going to be helpful and used?
That's such a great question, and I don't know the answer for that, but even within our own district, say social studies, even as we try to do that, it's really difficult. Teachers forget to go there. And then they're like, where do I go again? And they can't find it. So if anybody has any ideas of a good platform or something to, other than like Twitter or something, that might be the best route, is to have some sort of Twitter, whatever handle, that we use.
You do have one called Mentoring Matters. No, Utah Mentors that I set up back in
I don't have
2012, but I've never used it. So,
So the idea is really great. I don't know if you invest a lot of time in that, how helpful it will be, other than, I do like coming here and talking, and that maybe we create our own relationships with the different people that we talk to that we know we want to have more conversation with. I don't know. That's kind of negative, sorry.
no, it's not negative.
I just know even within our own district and even within our own content area, it's still a struggle for us, and we're still trying to figure out how to best communicate and share with each other.
It's honest feedback, because that is the feeling that I received when I did it before. But then, it needed a whole lot of effort from somebody in order to keep it rolling. And I like the idea of, you making your connections and you guys continuing that. However, I'm at your service and your tool. So if anybody has, an idea, platform, or whatever, I'm always ready about it and to get it started. I'm honest and say I won't be able to maintain it. I can add to it occasionally when I see something if I'm just
Along those lines, is it possible to just make a distribution list of all of the mentors that come to these meetings virtually or here, with their name and their school or district and job title or something like that, so that like if a district person needs district advice, they can look for a district person on the list, or if a charter person needs charter advice, they can contact a specific charter person? Because that might
I think that's
be
a
better.
better idea, just having that list, that if we're all willing to be on it.
With email addresses.
With emails, yeah.
So how would you feel about having that posted on our mentoring website?
I didn't know that thing existed, so that would not help me. Just putting it out there.
So if you sent out a Google form and then asked us those questions, so you could send it to all of us who are on your email list, and we gave that back to you, then you would have a document with everybody's stuff on it, and you're not really doing anything, but then you can share it with everybody.
And then, yeah, if you send it out to all of us again, like after we all fill that out, you can put it into a spreadsheet and then just share that spreadsheet with us, and then we can.
And then we can
Save that.
file it where where it will make sense to us in our own Google Docs.
In the Google
I
verse.
thought email addresses were private.
And if somebody doesn't want to participate, they don't have to.
Email addresses were private.
District.
Email addresses can be, it's whether or not they choose. That's why I asked, how would you feel about having it? But with being public education employees, they should be able to be reached.
So nobody uses their personal?
Oh, you have to use a Gmail. I know our district is all Gmail, but for Google and to share it, you have
That's
to.
why I asked about how would you feel, but if we had, I don't know enough about Google because we just barely got.
You can send it.
You can send it to,
You
like,
can send it as a link.
as a link, and anybody that has the link then can fill out that form.
I know there's some that I've tried to look at from other,
I get requests every now and then that I have to, and just, if we really want it, we'll ask for that.
Okay.
And then you just share it.
All right.
Just wanted email, their titles, what district, and their names.
Okay.
Is that correct? Did
Do
I
it,
hear
I'll do
correctly?
it in a Google Doc. Do you want to know?
Google form, a Google spreadsheet.
Google form.
If you do Google form and then you can, the spreadsheet, you just push the button, it creates the spreadsheet for you.
You just put the headings for us to fill in.
You want a column that says okay, if I call Jen or I contact Jen, I know that I'm going to find out about the CMAP project that, we did for charters for mentoring. Want that kind of stuff, or do you want to just kind of get to know that?
I think for me personally, I would like to just know kind of what's your role, and then I can match up to what questions I might have with that person's role and district.
You figure that out by the title of the person?
I think if you ask what is your role with
Or even if
mentoring
you were-
coordinator.
Like if you're super confident in something, like, like I feel confident in that I could be a resource for
So maybe a strengths column, these are my strengths.
coaching or,
Yeah, if you did a title and then bulleted the areas of your job.
well, this will be very short, but yeah.
The Google form will just organize everything according to the question.
Yeah.
So
We all know we're mentor people, but maybe the other column could be like EYE specialist, instructional coach,
Or like
ELA
your-
secondary specialist.
Well, like she's social studies, like even if you put that your background social studies, then if I have a social studies mentoring question, I'd be like, oh, that's who I need to talk to.
Right.
So I could have a column that says other.
Yeah.
There you go.
Other
Whatever-
response-
other
other-
information you want, but other response
you just ask a question.
I'm retired
Yeah.
dancer.
I have a black belt.
So if we need somebody karate chops.
There you go.
All right, so, the other thing I was wondering, I'm thinking about is if it's not going to kill you all off, about sending a survey with a few different questions. Some ideas I've already heard for topics, that you can maybe rank as to what's most important for you to want to talk about. A place where you can add topics that aren't there. If there's feedback on the number of meetings that you have, do you prefer face-to-face versus virtual? Do you want both? I mean, some of these are going to be no-does for some, and some people are going to have their own opinion. What else did I have on there? It's mostly topic ideas. Would that be bothersome to you if I?
No.
Oh.
have my email. I've never gotten an email.
That was gonna be my
If
question.
your email is on that piece of paper, where I'm taking it up right now, and either Lana or I will put it up right now. If you've been getting all of the emails, then you're good. If you haven't been getting the emails,
How many emails do you send? So I would know if I'm getting them or not.
well, recently I sent 3 in a row.
Oh, I haven't gotten any of those.
I got the
They were last
reminder for
night.
today. I sent the web address or the web access, and then I sent the documents that Lana sent a couple of them, and I sent a couple of them again.
This individual, Shannon, she says it would be very helpful for us to know if people have resources that might help us with specific parts of the job. I know when I came to the last meeting, one of the people from Granite shared some of her resources that have been super helpful. It makes it so we don't have to reinvent the wheel when there are people out there ahead of us on the path. And Mandy says, yes, Shannon, especially when you are from a small district without lots of staff to support. Karen Bondit says, I agree with Shannon. I have also used materials from others. Could we do something with an online community to share or some other sort of sharing?
Questions? The answer is you got it. We'll do something we can to make it happen. But yeah, you learn more from each other. I have spent more time doing research in the beginning and talking about that, giving you updates on stuff, which is blah, blah, blah. And then we have time to talk about the articles or whatnot. Is that useful for your time, or do you want, if there's any critical updates, and then you just want to get into discussion about topics? Could that be a question on the survey?
Yes.
One of the questions I'm going to ask is, would you be willing to facilitate one of the meetings with a partner or something like that? I'm going to see what the interest is out there and the comfort level is. Of course, I'll be here.
You already have somebody for April. You have Jana from Washington County.
Yeah, Janet has her piece. We might be able to get Kelly to do some on her part. So
We talked
specific.
about Salt Lake, Granite resources.
You just see.
What about, do you want time for either roll-alike or size alike time to talk? So if you are a rural district, and Wasatch Front districts are wonderful, and I love to hear ideas from them. And there are many of them that I can implement, so I want to talk to my rural or my charters. One of the things I love to do is put rurals and charters together. There are a lot of similar issues. Is that something that is useful, or do you like topic specific? And
Both.
any other feedback before put the survey together or get ready to? Oh, I really appreciate your intentional work when you're here. I'll have competing responsibilities and places we need to be. But this group has always been very participatory. Airing is fantastic every time. I love walking around and listening to everything. I know even big and small and everything else have plenty to learn from each other. This really is one of the most favorite parts of my job is super appreciate that. Let me quickly talk to you about the spring.
Oh, Gil. Gil's giving you a call.
I don't know who Gil is. Hi, Gil. Bye, Gil. All right. So We talked about a tactical sprint last year, sometime. Remember when? So I want to talk to you really quickly about what it is, and if you want to consider being part of it. And I've had this conversation a few times, and I've had some people gather together and say, yes, pick me, I want to take part. And it's been pushed to the side a few times. So we've got to reschedule it, we've got to do that, but I want to explain a little bit more about what it is that I'm asking. This is 5 intensive days, 5 full days. The plan is to do 3 in a row, which would be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then either the next week or the week after would be a Friday, Saturday. You would be paid. If you're on contract, I can't pay you that time. If you take a personal day, I can pay you for it. Saturdays, obviously, I can pay for it. I'm asking to sequester you so that we go to one hotel that has a meeting room because they are very, very intense, brain-draining days, but what comes out of them is amazing. So it's a big commitment for a compact amount of time. And the purpose of the tactical sprint is to develop the mentor training in our model out there. I have some ideas of what I think it could look like. I have other ideas that I wonder about. I'm going to be facilitating. You are going to be deciding what it looks like. Is it online? Is it in person? Is it on both? Is it what? I mean, all of that. And I'll have people here from USBE come, our IT people, other people that might be involved in being able to push this out. But I'm looking for a group of between 8 and 10 people about what it is. And the first day is just looking at, ask the experts. This would be bringing in actual mentors that are doing the work every day. And it would be a range of experience. So we would do kind of interviews if they're a new mentor, if they're an experienced mentor, different demographics, that type of thing. It would be new teachers. What did you wish you had? What did you have that was great? What could you use more of? It would be specialists on producing an online module. It would be, specialists on experts on, anything that we can think of. And so we would invite them that first day, chat with them, see what it is that they would have to offer, information that we need to consider as we move through this process, etc. And the next day, as we physically sketch it out, we have big storyboards laid out for you exactly what this process would look like. It's big, it's huge, it's messy with tons of Post-it notes and color and everything else, and it's awesome. And then the third day is we put those storyboards ultimately together and we make some decisions. You make decisions, not me. You make decisions on what are the critical pieces, what needs to be part of it, what is our prototype going to look like. The next day is designing the prototype. So this is where we, as much as possible, put together what it would physically look like, what this training would look like. If it's 25 modules, if it's 2 modules, if it's traveling around, I don't know, whatever you think. And then the last day is a test where we would invite people in where they would actually try it out. We would have mentors try out whatever it is that we think we want to do for mentoring. We would have new teachers look at it. We would have administrators look at it. We would have superintendents look at it. We'd have internal people here. We would just have all kinds of people that would look at it, tell us what they think about it, and then we get as much as we can, and then we send it out there as a drafted final and get our ultimate feedback. Some of you may have heard this the first time I talked about it. The Apple store partnered with it's not lens crafters, but it was some kind of eyeglass prescription place. And you know how you go to a place to put the glasses and you try on 15. So their idea that they worked through, their prototype that they ended up setting up was in the store, Apple had set up computer stations. People could go in there, put the glasses on, snap a picture. And then it would show an array of the person with all the different glasses on, pairs of glasses, so that they could remember and look at which kind they wanted and what they decided to want. And so when they got it out there in the public, they were able to tweak some things that didn't work. Things like lighting were some. Others were, do they have a recommended style for the face? So you're not just, yes, I mean, there were some tweaks and things, but ultimately there is a chain out there. I don't know who they are, I can't remember, that is doing this. They now use this, and their eyeglass sales are astronomical compared to what they were. So it was developed originally as a business model. There is an entire school system in Australia. They do what they call learning sprints, and this is how they do all of their work. They come to all of their decisions. They usually do them in 2 or 3 days after they've got going, had it going, because they understand a little bit better. So
Watch them do that.
wouldn't that be nice? Should we go to Australia?
I'll volunteer right now.
I had Australia in my classroom. It was a beanbag with some other things, but because when Alexander, the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad Dave came to my class and needed Australia, there you went. So, it's a lot of fun. There's some frustration sometimes. Your brain will be so tired and fried. You will be well paid. You will be fed. You will be housed. Have to be there for all 5 days. So those of you that are seriously interested, when we get you all together, hopefully in the next month, the dates, and that's going to be that. They're all 5 days. That's just a non-negotiable. All right. That's all, folks. Thank you. Drive careful. 5 minutes early, better than nothing. Thank you for all your work. I'm looking forward to seeing you on April 29th, and watch for a survey to give some feedback, please.